Welcome to Self-Perfected.
How dare you swear?
Now we're going.
Christine, you shall not swear.
How
on
do
this
you
day.
swear on the day
This-
the Lord has risen?
This is a holy day.
Happy Easter.
Not even happy.
Everybody expects that we're gonna like just talk a bunch of shit about Easter today. So that's what I want to do.
So let's give them what they want.
I don't really want to talk about Easter. I want to talk about child abuse. And I think naturally that will lead to Easter discussions.
Okay.
Well, I mean, when kids across the world right now are all chasing Easter eggs, thinking that that is somehow a valid thing to do.
Sure. Yeah, I mean
Eggs.
that's I mean, look at this. See, but here's the thing: you're chasing Easter eggs, and that's like fun, right?
Yeah.
But if you actually had your own eggs and chickens, let's see if that will focus. It's like a lot of
Cameron, that'll get you bird flu. What the fuck are you doing?
Hold on, let me bird flu.
Isn't it rabbits that leave those?
Yeah. Don't rabbits lay eggs? Like lots of them?
Oh, and I don't have any pictures.
No,
of my rabbits,
that's according to the pagan mythology, Drake and Christine.
but I have
You gotta
rabbits
know your
also.
history.
Okay.
Hey, make it so I can share my screen, Jake.
Well, you're kind of bugging out over here. Hang on.
do you
I
mean?
don't know.
All right, you should do it.
Someone's bugging out.
Bugging out.
Yeah, like someone's glitching. It's either you or me.
I think it's Drake.
I think it was
Probably
Cam.
you, dude. I don't know.
Christine's on the same Wi-Fi, and Christine's like, "Oh, it's definitely Cameron."
Cam's screen was the only one that bugged out. So
This is the extent of our drama in this community.
Can you guys see my Easter eggs?
I see a lot of
beautiful.
feathers,
Naturally
actually.
died by the chickens.
I love it.
You know, it's funny. You can buy those blue eggs now at the grocery store, and they're like, I think for a dozen, it's like over $10. It's crazy.
It's literally just a different type of chicken.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, like these blue ones are the leg bars. The white ones, I mean, it might be more than one thing, but we have leg horns that lay those. These ones, I think, is the Samani. Can you guys see the little? Yeah, you can see the little box I'm making. I think those are the Samanis. That's like those all black chickens.
Uh-huh.
These ones, I believe, like these ones here, I believe are the Marins. And these ones are called olive eggers. And you notice there's different types. There's like Easter eggers, olive eggers, different ones. So there's this kind of like olive, very, very olive colored one. But then there's, I think that may be just a blue one right there. But then there's this one too. And like there's like different shades of the olive that you get.
What about
And
that?
so you even
like,
have
kinda
this one
pinkish
too.
one on the right.
This one?
No, all
hold
the
on.
way to the right. The
I
pinkish.
think it's coming. Those I think are the Simone. I'm not really totally sure, but you know, because you look at pictures and they kind of also always look different than the picture. But these really dark ones, I'm pretty sure, are the blue copper Marins, and these I think are the Simonis. Like the black chickens don't lay black eggs.
Okay, is there like
popular viral-
any? Can you tell any difference between them? Like which ones are more nutritionally dense or flavored or anything?
They all just seem like just normal eggs.
Oh,
I really like the natural colors that you went with when you dyed them. You know, we're trying to use less, food coloring in our dyes as well. So
Yeah, isn't that
I don't
interesting though? Like it's all about dyeing.
yeah,
You notice that?
wow.
Is that like a coincidence, or is that the
Wow.
Matrix?
I think
There's no coincidences.
I
Cameron.
think somebody when they were typing in the program, they're like, and then everybody dies on Easter, like, but they didn't know how to spell. They didn't have TT. So
It's literally you don't even have to do research. You can just look at it for yourself. It's literally a pagan fucking like fertility. You know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like it's funny because people will talk shit about the pagan part and be like, you're just being a pagan. And it's like that part actually makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, you're celebrating, it's spring, everything's coming back to life. Like, I don't see what it has to do with the eggs, because you get eggs all the time, but
Do you ever watch the documentary Zeitgeist, where they explain like the astrology behind the whole Jesus story?
yeah.
Oh man, if anyone hasn't seen Zeitgeist, you got to watch Zeitgeist today. That'd be a way to spend
Yeah.
Easter.
It's
Man,
actually pretty good. Like the Son of God
Yeah.
rises after the third day.
Right. But then you don't celebrate it until then Easter, which is then the spring equinox.
But let's just look at that for a moment, right? How do I explain this for people who still believe in this stuff? Probably I can't. Like normal, quote, normal average people, okay, go along with these things. And then if you question it, it's like there's not even like a oh yeah, that just doesn't make sense. It's like a no, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not just the whole point about oh, it's like just a pagan ritual that they like adopted, and like obviously they just wanted to get Christians in, so it's like if let me think of an example. It's like if I wanted to get Black people to like come to my party, and I was like, there's gonna be fried chicken and watermelon, and there's gonna be like
I'm fucking there.
gonna be playing rap music. You see what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, great.
Am I allowed to come as a white
Hold on.
man? Because that sounds fun.
Rick, you're not Black. Stop.
I know. I forgot. I forgot. It's just the
You're Black when you want to
said
be.
watermelon and fried chicken, and I was like, "Fuck!" I really want to go to this party.
What would it be what would it be if Black people wanted white people to come? Because I have to balance out the equation of raceism, obviously, on this.
If we wanted white people to show up,
Mashed
we'd be like,
potatoes.
hey, we're gonna play
Um,
some rock.
We're gonna play
rock
Led
music.
Zeppelin.
Country.
Dress code is Martha's Vineyard.
Um, we'll
Yeah,
make you really
country.
comfortable. I don't know.
We'll
I
make
don't
you
know.
comfortable. We'll be
make-
polite.
We'll be- My white cousin's gonna be there. It'll be cool.
Yeah. But anyways, it's like, okay, you want to get all these pagans on board. So you're just like, oh yeah, hey, we have a fertility ritual too. Oh yeah, we have that one. Yeah, we have the one where you worship the tree in the house and all this shit. It's like you're just adopting all that stuff, obviously. Or maybe it was just a bunch of pagans started becoming Christian and they just wanted to keep doing their traditions. So they just kind of turned it into that, or like, oh, let's use this one to celebrate this, or I don't know. But
you know what Black people would use to get white people to show up?
okay.
You'll be helping our community. That's it.
Oh yeah, they would literally sacrifice like some drug dealer guy,
Hey,
and all the people would show up being like, "Oh, poor Black people, we got to help you."
there you go. There you go. It's,
Yeah, that's
white
what it
people
is.
love to
Yeah.
help.
The white guilt can get people to move. Oh man.
And
So that's what Easter is.
that's it.
It's
That's it,
just
white
like
guilt.
fucking guilt. It's just guilt that you
Yeah.
sacrificed. I mean, the reason I was joking about the child abuse thing is like, think about it. God had a son that he sent to earth, apparently, according to the story. And we literally killed him and sacrificed him on a cross, like hung him up, bled him out, killed him. And then and then apparently he came back to life. And we're like celebrating that.
Right.
Why?
Dude, we killed him. And he came back to life. How crazy is that?
It
That's
is a
awesome.
giant guilt trip.
The child abuse part comes in where it's like, that's what you're impulsing kids with every year. And you're
Yeah.
doing it under the guise of, oh, it's fun, Easter eggs, and I'll give you chocolate and all this stuff. And my kids, I mean, you know, they just like to have fun. So I'm sure they would think an Easter egg hunt is fun.
Yeah,
But we could literally do that anytime. And
Okay.
we do like because it's Easter, we went to the grocery store and Seneca saw the stuff, right? And then we were talking about Easter and all that. And then in the house, she was like, let's do an Easter egg hunt. And she went and got a bunch of our eggs. And I was like, well, let's not use those because they'll break. We should boil them first. But she didn't want to wait for that. So then we got a bunch of apples and oranges and potatoes and stuff. And I was hiding them all around the house.
nice.
And I would like giving her clues of like, I bet this one probably likes to read. And so she'd like look at the bookshelf and she'd be like, oh, and she had this little bunny basket, you know, and she like carried it over there. And so we did like over and over and over. And the year before that, we were like hiding eggs from the backyard, like color coded. You know, we didn't have the chickens that we have now. So we just dyed the eggs. And I had a yellow egg, I'd hide it behind like some yellow tool or something like that, or like, some like green ones would go like under a plant. We were like, it's fun. It was like a real competition. Then they would go get all the eggs and then we would do it again. And I would try to like figure out how I can hide them and, camouflage it and stuff. Right.
Nice.
And so I'm not like, that part's cool. That part's fun. Kids love that stuff.
Yeah.
But then you're using that to suck people into like subconsciously getting exposed to all like the other stuff. Because even if you're not Christian and you participate in Easter, there's still the background of why it exists. Because if it's just a fun thing to do, why don't you do it just any fucking time? Why does it need to be on Easter weekend?
Right.
And it's like, no, we have dibs on Easter egg hunts, chocolate bunnies. That's got to be on the day where we talk about the fact that our God was sacrificed and he came back to life. And, and I saw this post on Facebook today. Here, I'll show you guys.
It's interesting. He always comes back on a Sunday, like never on a.
I'll cover up the
Monday.
person's name. Look at this comment.
We
We have hope.
Can you read it?
Yeah,
I can't read
because
it. I
of
can.
the
It's
birth
backwards.
of Christ on Christmas and the death of Christ on Easter, we have hope. So he only lived like 4 months.
But what does that even mean? Because of the birth of Christ on Christmas and the death of Christ on Easter, we have hope. Hope about, and then this really gets to the point, isn't it? Like, what do you guys think is the hope they're talking about?
The hope is that after they die, somehow they're going to be resurrected and they're going to be in bliss and happiness because they believed.
I think they're talking about that humanity has hope. They're looking at like how terrible things are.
Hope of what? Hope for what?
I don't even think it's that. I think it's literally just self-interested. Like, I'm fucking scared to die and I don't know what's going to happen. So I have hope that like maybe what happened to Jesus will happen to me.
That
'Cause I
someone
made
will
this
crucify
post.
them.
That's like that's some serious, like, you didn't teach your child to use logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you believe that and then get upset if they do bad on their math homework? What were you gonna say?
I was just looking up because you know how I guess it's just Catholicism, I don't know, but Ash Wednesday is like the start of the Lent season, right? And I was just thinking about this, like how people give up things. And I'm like, it's so interesting because like I don't give up anything, but I wouldn't say my life is less off than these people that do this like traditional
definitely
Lent
not. It's
traditional, you know what I mean? But then I was looking at the like what it signifies, and it's like Ash Wednesday is a holy day of prayer and fasting in many Western Christian denominations. And then it says it's preceded by Shrove Tuesday and marks the first day of Lent, the 6 weeks of penitence before Easter. And then I looked up penitence, which is the action of feeling or showing sorrow and regret for having done wrong, repentance. So it's like, you should feel sorry. You should feel bad for who you are as a being.
So,
And they put these systems in place to impulse kids with, you need to feel bad, you need to feel guilty. And now we're going to talk about this guy getting sacrificed. But guys, there's hope because he rose again.
Right.
And it's like, that was 2,000 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
And if he did all that, why does celebrating it make a difference? Why does doing all this stuff why does doing penitence, why does doing the not eating meat on Fridays or whatever, why does it make a difference in the grand scheme of things? If the whole big deal of him dying and being resurrected did something, how does it make a difference? What
lest
doing
you
Easter?
lest you forget, okay, all the awesome things that this guy Jesus did for you and God killed his only son just for you. Okay, you fucking asshole. This guy's over here killing his son for you and you don't even appreciate it. You know what? I'm not killing my son for you. That's for sure. Huh. You don't even appreciate it. You
So
don't
when was the first Christmas and then when was the first Easter? Because couldn't have happened in the same year, right? You'd only be
33
like
years
4
later.
months.
Okay.
Do you think like
Oh, was it?
literally
Uh,
do you think literally like the next year after Jesus died and everything, like kids were out there hunting Easter eggs?
I think they were hunting Easter eggs since
Or was it
before he
like while he was like literally like
on the
dying?
cross? On the cross.
They're like, shit, this is way too real. I don't want to
And
look at
he
this.
was like going, no, wait till Sunday. And the kid's like, what about the chocolate bunnies? You can have one now and one on Sunday.
Thanks,
Wow.
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so wild because so Christine, when you brought up that point about the Ash Wednesday and you got to feel bad, it's fascinating because 2 points. One is they talk about giving up something for Lent or whatever. It's like, or you could just live your whole life where you continually give up the limited version of yourself so you can actually just create the best reality for everyone, which is what Jesus was basically trying to say anyway.
And then you will be resurrected.
And then and
then
literally
you don't need hope.
Yeah. So it's like you could just always live in that state of being willing to give up whatever it takes, sacrifice the ego in order to live your best life. But then also penitence. What does it mean again? The feeling of sorrow?
Yeah.
So that's fascinating too, because you should feel fucking sorrow for not stepping up in the world and directing reality to make it best for all. But then don't dwell in it. Don't go into pity. It's just like a moment of like, oh, fuck. Okay. Realization. Wow. We're all like totally distracted. Let's do this.
It would be like, it would be like somebody comes to you and is like, it says exactly what you just said, Mitch. Like, the world is in fucking shambles. It is shit. You should feel fucking bad for this shit and do something about it. Give up fucking playing around, give up drinking, give up all this shit and fix the world. And they go, okay, so here's the deal, everybody. We are going to make a holiday where we all feel like shit for just a little bit. We give up a little bit. And then, we just like, at the
But
end
do
of
we
it,
do anything fundamentally differently on those days
no,
than
no,
the
no,
other
no, no,
days?
no,
Or
no,
after.
No, I'm getting drunk on Easter too.
Exactly. I'm going to drink so much fucking
Do I
wine.
feed my kids a bunch of artificial sugar and
Fucking go for it, bro.
just like I normally
Why
do?
would you take away the magic of Easter?
Listen. But the world's gonna be better because we felt sorrow for like, I don't know, a few months, a couple months.
I don't even care about the world. I'm just still scared of death. And I'm scared that when I die, I'm not going to be in bliss. So I'm just going to participate in this story.
Mitch, I just need you to feel sorrow for like, I don't know, 2 months. And then at the end of those 2 months and give up something, just anything you feel like giving up.
Like something that
give
you're
up
like,
drinking 4 glasses of
probably
wine.
Part with this for a while.
Yeah, like give up, I don't know, maybe chocolate for a little bit, or I don't know.
But
just
like
that.
Also, if you do eat some chocolate, then just feel really guilty about it. And actually, it's even better if you do that, because then you're really getting into the penitence. You got to do some bad things so that you can feel bad about them.
That's right.
Like imagine if you lived your whole life actually as Christ, you'd be a pretty shitty Christian, because you wouldn't even be able to do penitence.
Wow.
You'd be like, I don't feel sorrowful. I feel joyful. I feel like my life is great and the world's improving and everything. I mean, like, dude, like that would be like shitting on the resurrection.
Yeah, that's like not even what Jesus was about.
I know, like, okay.
It was definitely about being followers and being sheep and not directing as an equal. And that one part of the Bible where Jesus says, "Aren't ye all gods?" I can't read, so
but
I don't know how to interpret that one.
But first of all, Mitch, how dare you use shame to sell me on trying to change the world? How dare you use shame and fear to try to sell me on changing myself? How dare you? Okay, because I got to go do my penitence, and I gotta just allow billion children or however many to be impulsed with fear and shame. So, but how dare you try to use any fear and shame and try to make me feel like I'm less than something, because
that's it. That's the solution. Everybody just stop Easter and the world will just be better. Like, okay, all we have to do is just stop Easter. That's it. That must be the answer, right? Okay. Yeah, cool. And we don't have to do anything else different. Just stop Easter. That's it. Right.
I think then I noticed this trend with people. Like I've seen with a few people, they're all talking about being Muslim now. You guys seen this?
Oh yeah, because Andrew Tate went Muslim.
It's the hot thing right now. So you guys want to convert?
What?
Might as well, right?
Can I still do
Do
Easter?
Muslims celebrate Easter?
Definitely still do Easter. You can do Easter.
No, you
and-
get Ramadan now, okay?
You just gotta
Yeah.
wait until 8 o'clock at night to
That's
eat
an
it.
even more
Chocolate
intense
bunny.
fast.
it's more intense.
Dude,
and
I already do that every day. Like I don't usually eat until
You're
sundown.
already Muslim.
You don't even eat until sundown.
Basically, I just eat dinner. I usually just drink coffee in the morning. Are you allowed
Yeah.
to do that?
I
No,
think
it's literally
Fuck
nothing.
no, Cameron.
There's not even water. I'm pretty
What?
sure.
Okay, what is the
Wait, no,
what is
you're allowed
the
to have water. I'm
what is the
I
Islamic
mean,
word? Or
that sounds
Muslim
more
word
like you're
for
just
it?
in a desert and you don't have water. So you're like, oh, it makes me holy.
What is the Muslim word for penitence? Okay.
If you're Muslim and you
You
have a
mean
lot
Arab?
of money, are you allowed to? Hey, question: if you're Muslim
No.
and you have a lot of money during Ramadan, are you still allowed to keep your fucking African like house slaves?
Oh yeah. That
During
doesn't
Ramadan?
get touched. Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't-
I think what we
that's
should do is
good.
investigate everything and just keep all the shitty parts. Like, because I'm down with the house slaves from Africa, like the rich Muslims that I know.
You would be.
Or it could be like Malaysian or some shit. I remember like I knew these like I knew the ambassador to like or the general consul for Qatar.
Yeah.
Right. And they lived in like this palace in Houston, like not too far from where I lived. Like walking distance. And we would go over there on Saturdays. And I remember I went over there during, I guess it was Ramadan. I didn't realize that. But then they would have like, it's like as soon as we get a certain time, they'd have like fucking snack bar town. And they had lots of slaves. It was pretty cool. Like when I would go to their house, the slaves would answer the door.
Wow.
Oh wow.
It was pretty cool. And then they would like, and then we go to like a sitting room and I would sit there and and then they'd serve me tea. And then like
Nice.
the guy and his wife would come down and then like we'd go to a different sitting room and then she would serve me tea. And then we would eat dates. That was on some days. But then on the days where we'd go play like volleyball and basketball and stuff, and then afterwards we would go and like inside and they would have like all this rice and just delicious, tasty, like those. Oh, you know what are really good? Those I forget what they're called. Those grape leaves wrapped around like rice stuff.
Mm,
Mhm.
Those are called dolmas.
Dolmas.
No,
Yeah.
dolmas? I think that's right.
Dalmas?
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
Like
Speaking of
as
rice,
in the
Or like-
Dalmas?
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Dairy?
You're right. I get those at Whole Foods. They're
Yeah.
so good.
They're just, the ones from Whole Foods though have a little bit too much lemon flavor. I wish they would back off a little bit on the lemon. I think it's a lemon flavor, whatever. So what were we talking about? Oh yeah. And so for Easter,
How holy?
Easter, I definitely want to keep them make your children feel really guilty about being alive. That's a good one.
Mhm.
So,
And
there
the
And
was
the
some-
only thing you should have hope about is death.
Well, wait, what? What do you mean by that?
Like you should feel guilty when you're alive, but the
Uh-huh.
hope should all be about for when you're dead,
Oh, right.
not when you're
Yes.
alive. I mean, you're still
No,
gonna
no.
go to school every day.
Yeah.
Get a
Oh,
job.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, this is just
Like-
Go to
temporary,
school,
right?
get a job.
Like hope I go to
Why?
heaven.
No
though?
guilty.
Why, Cameron? Cameron,
yeah.
Why? Why do you have to go to school? Like, even though it's not like necessarily what you want to do or what you want to put your kids in, but you still do it. Why?
Are you asking me?
I am asking you.
Because they got to get a job.
They got to get a job. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So they got to get a job. But wait, why did they have to get a job? Like, the earth literally provides fucking food and all these fucking resources. Why do we have to get jobs? Why do we have to do this? Oh, because all those resources over there, like somebody else mines that resource and it's their resource. And if I don't compete with them, then I won't be able to survive.
You always hear this thing of like, well, the capitalists, like they take these free resources from the earth, but they do the work. They do the process of making them into something for everybody, right? So that's why they get the right to all that profit, right?
Right.
But do they actually do all that work?
No, they don't.
Or do they just
They do-
enslave the people?
Yeah. They do the work
through the
of
money system
enslaving.
to do the work? So it's just bullshit. Like when they're like, oh, but if they didn't, it's you could do
That's
it from
the real work.
You could still do the work.
Yeah.
but then the profit could go back to improving everyone's lives. Like you could make that choice if you wanted to.
So the only way
And you're
that-
not doing the physical labor. So it's not like you're like, so I have to do all this physical labor. And it's like, you're not the one, the person organizing it is not fucking doing all that physical labor.
yeah, the only way
And
that
imagine if they
works-
did it in a way where everybody had what they needed, like their life would be great too.
the only way that it works where it's like only this person gets to keep the profit is from a starting point of separation. It's like you literally see yourself as separate from every other human being and every other thing on this planet, right? And so it's like all this belongs to me. It's like, whoa, hang on. You are being a little bit kind of like evil dictatorish over here.
You know what I like to do, like every few days or whatever, is because we get a lot of eggs, right? And
Yeah.
they'll accumulate. So I'll give them away to people, right? Because we're not trying to sell them, at least at the moment.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll just throw them to like the chickens and the pigs and stuff. So I'll just like collect all the eggs and I'll have like 30 eggs and then I'll just give them a few and then I'm like, oh, just keep going. And then I'm like, I don't even have any more eggs.
Yeah.
So wait, hold on. You let the chickens eat the egg, right? In its current form. Someone was telling me that if you do that, you run the risk of then the chickens will attack their own eggs and
I
like
heard
just
about that. I heard about that, but I think it's like if they're cracked open already, you don't like give them just the egg itself, and then they peck at it.
They don't really tend to break the egg themselves. Yeah. Plus they're pretty strong. I mean, I haven't had that be an issue and I don't do it all the time, but mostly I'm throwing it for the pigs. Like the chickens just like to do it. Like to come over there and start slurping on it. But no, I maybe that's true, but I haven't had that issue. But also they have access to a lot of land and we give them like grain or seed or whatever it is. So we feed them. So it's not like they, I don't know. I haven't had that issue. But my point was just like, I'm not like, no, these are my fucking eggs. You know what I mean? Only for me, and then like, even like all the table scraps and stuff, like we don't throw away any food anymore. We just give it to the pigs. It's like a really cool way of looking at it,
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's really weird because, I was thinking about this thing Guion said about, Bernard talking about when they were at the farm, like, do you remember that thing? I think he said on one of the meetings about, if you don't fix the system, it's going to be like, not fix it. If you don't change the system, it's going to be like you're living in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Do you remember he was saying something about that? Do you remember any context? But the point was just like things will collapse to that point, right? And the reason I was, we were a little bit late starting this morning because I was moving some electric netting around so we can move our chickens. And I was setting up another paddock for the cows and the horses, or the horse rather. And I was like, we're kind of already doing the things that people in the 1800s would probably be doing.
Right. Except
I mean, we still have electricity, which is
Yeah.
nice. We still have computers, but like I'm out there every day, feeding animals, like collecting eggs, like Katie's making bread. Like we're doing a lot of the things you would do then. So that's cool. But do you really want to like not have electricity?
right.
And like you go to somewhere like South Africa and there's like many days out of the week where like you just can't have electricity. It's called like load shedding or something like that.
Dude, just
And other
off
countries
the-
too, but I just know that as an example.
Yeah, just off the coast here in the Dominican Republic, we would go visit every summer or every fall, and there would be, every day there would be a few hours where like you don't have any electricity at all. Your hot water is done. Your
Yeah.
like whatever you wanted to use in the fridge, hopefully you put it in the freezer if it needs to last longer or whatever. But like it would just be like, oh, electricity's out, unless you were staying at a resort. Then you
Interesting.
had full access to electricity. But anywhere
So it's not
else-
like it can't happen. It's just
Yeah.
they're like, no, we need to divert the resources. Fuck all these people who live here,
right.
and they're probably the ones who work at the resorts, where
Right.
they're like competing to get those jobs.
Right, exactly. And so
Mm.
you would know like as soon as and there'd be a certain time every day where people would just be like, hey, you better take your shower because the light's gonna go. And you'd be like, what? And then next thing you know, you're like, oh, it's cold. What's happening?
It was like
No
that in
AC.
Venezuela too.
Yeah,
Really.
Yeah.
but
So I mean,
It's-
it doesn't have to be like that.
It doesn't, but there's this definitely this starting point of separation for one, where people seriously believe that, whatever they find is theirs, and they're not thinking of themselves as part of the human race or part of this earth. They're just thinking of themselves. And so that would be the starting point where you wouldn't find something that's beneficial for everybody, that everybody needs, and go, hey, I found this. This will support all of us. Let's all share this. But instead, you go, oh, I found clean drinking water. You need clean drinking water. Pay me. I'm not giving this to you. Fuck you. Like, that's essentially the system that we have right now for not just clean drinking water, but literally every resource.
And it's literally written in laws.
Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting is people will try to debate about the importance of words, but because they have limited vocabularies, so they're like, well, it can't be that important because I'm fucked then, right? But everything about how our system functions is based on language.
Yeah.
And like this word and this word combined, and now that's the agreement.
Yeah.
Instead of it being other words combined, where the agreement, the outflow of that is, okay, here's the rules. You're not allowed to abuse this point. Like if you get access to resources, you have to consider what's best for everybody within that. I mean, the same amount of labor would make it so that everybody benefits.
Right.
And then when you really look at it, the people who originally, let's say, started, okay, like think about a company that bottles up water. Okay, it's obviously a private company.
Mm.
And then you think, well, the people who started that company, who did all that work, they deserve all those profits. But those people probably they're not even involved in the company anymore.
Right.
In most,
Right.
I'm saying, I'm sure there's many cases like
Well,
that.
it should
where
go
it's
to
like,
their children. Wait, why should it go to their children? Why specifically their children? Because they came up with the idea, and their children should be compensated for it. Okay, but shouldn't the entire world benefit from that?
But then
Like-
also what about all of the like they were a person who had the programming to know how to go and talk to a bank and get a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So they could hire a bunch of people to go and get this resource, and they knew how to get the rights to it through signing the right contracts, the right language structure to say that now I own this resource.
Right.
It's not like they did the most work ever in human history and they just deserve it. Like I'm not saying if you work and you build something, that should just be taken away from you and given to other people.
Right.
That's not that's like the whole communism. I think that's why some people would react to what we say. So, oh, okay, so you're just saying like, if I raise a chicken, like my neighbor should get half of it. I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. And you're only thinking like that in terms of the current system of lack and low education, because why wouldn't your neighbor also have a chicken?
Yeah.
Why would they need to take yours? Like you're assuming that you're the only person fucking doing anything. That's not the case. And then when you look at the person who makes that argument, most cases, they're not an entrepreneur. They probably don't have a business. They don't have a job, and they have a job, and so it doesn't make any sense. But we could literally imagine if the rules were whatever profits came from those resources had to go back into making sure everybody has what they need.
Yeah.
You say, oh, well, then that guy wouldn't even do it. It's like, well, is that true?
No.
I mean, and if that's the case, like, what does that say about where we're at as a fucking, why is it that the most educated people, the people who know how the system works the most, would not want to labor? I mean, and aren't there plenty of people who would be like, no, okay, I'll definitely, I'll give my labor to organizing the production of this resource and the movement of that resource for the good of everybody. And I will always have what I need, and my basic needs will be taken care of. And then the profits of that would go to like basic income and things like that.
So what's interesting is like, a really hot topic for this little while has been AI and artificial intelligence, because of just how rapidly it's growing, right? Just like every week, it seems there's new developments, and they're like fucking huge developments, right? And we've been talking about, I think we talked about this on one of our own private meetings, about how it's really all AI is a large language model.
Well, those
Right.
particular ones,
Right.
the
But-
ones that
but-
everyone's hyping up about.
Right. But they're all trained on language, right?
Yeah.
Like all trained on, hey, okay, understanding this just based on the words that we use, right? And then I was talking about this with somebody yesterday, about how it's all about with programming anyway, specifically, you have to know syntax, right? Which is like
Which is essentially grammar.
exactly, which is like okay, like, but how many people would not be able to do that just in general everyday life? They don't understand that word syntax. They don't even understand grammar. They, like,
Think about all these like diversity things where we're like, we need more Black women programmers, but then also we need to respect their culture, and like it's okay if you don't use white grammar and all this and like speak properly. And it's like, okay, but that
So how's
matters
your code
in
gonna
computer
work?
programming. Like it
Yeah.
actually fucking matters.
right,
You
right,
can't have it both ways, everybody.
right. And so it's the point that I'm bringing up here is like, okay, the reason why our world is the way that it is today is because, like you said, we have these laws that are written in some language, but just using words, right? They're written in a very specific way, which prevents sometimes what people would consider common sense, right? Of just like, wait, you're saying, like, in some places, you're not allowed to give homeless people anything, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Like you can't just go set up a shop and start feeding homeless people in a lot of places. Yeah.
you can't do that, right? Like that is literally against the law. And you
Yeah.
might think, well, that's messed up, but like it's written in law, like using just words, right? And so that literally shapes how you can act in this world. And those laws are written by just people like you or I, but most people aren't able to read the laws.
Think
and
about in the
understand them.
beginning was the word, that the context of that statement.
Right.
Right? Like, okay, let's say you have a situation and then there's a bunch of homeless people, and over here there's a bunch of police, and then there's over here a bunch of people who want to like help these homeless people, like give them food, whatever. Okay. And
So
then
good.
in the beginning of this situation, someone had written a law because they already foresaw this situation. Okay. And in the beginning of this situation, they had written a law that says you cannot feed homeless people food that's not, certified, blah, 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 whatever, some particular process. And you're just like, I just want to make food from them and bring it to them. And because those words were written and you start taking this action, here come the police and start taking actions to prevent you from doing that. So you
then-
can see how in the way that the relationships were set up in the first place, it was because of the word. And then why are there homeless people?
Right.
And you can argue about different reasons why, but it all comes down to their ability to use language and their relationship to the world around them, which is through language. Because if they knew how to walk into a bank, like think about it, if they knew how to persuade someone to give them a suit, to give them a haircut, to give them a shower, and then how to persuade somebody, and then they could go into a bank and persuade them with an idea of how they're going to raise capital, and they have these people they're going to put on the board and all blah, 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 and then they could start a company.
Yeah.
Why doesn't any homeless person do that? And they'd be like,
Yeah.
well, they're just lazy. They just want to live off the system. And it's like, actually, that's the average middle class person just wants to live off the system
Yeah.
and keep it the same system that is creating the homelessness. It's like the laws wouldn't exist if everybody had an equally effective language ability,
Right.
because everybody would have been like, hold on, why does that law say that? That doesn't make sense. But it's only the people who have the higher language abilities that write the laws, that can read the laws, that can discuss the laws, and who have the money to go into the political system and be like, hey, here's the things we want written, write these laws for our benefit. And if they're not, like we were talking about earlier, considering what's best for everybody, they would never have written a law. If they had been considered, they would never have written a law that was like, you're allowed to go take a bunch of resources and just do it for profit.
Right.
Because I was listening to somebody earlier yesterday. I don't remember the context of it, but they were talking about the financial system, and they were talking about how banks are for profit. And they're like, but this is like the thing. Like the guy it was like a Robert Kiyosaki interview with somebody, and the guy was saying, everyone's heard that statement of money makes the world go round. And the guy's
Right.
like, because it does. Like, that's why we have that statement. Everyone knows this. Like, money is the most important thing. It makes everything move. And he's like, so, but our banks, our banking system, it is for-profit companies, which means people get together. They're creating a company where the purpose of the company is for them to take the money that we all need and then to play with it. And just like any business, they take risks, they do investments. If the investments don't work out, they lose money, whatever. But they're playing with this. It's like if you had like all the food in your pantry and I took all the food and I'm like, I'm going to go gamble this food today and I might get more food or I might come home with no food. And like you lose and your kids are like, we can't eat.
Yeah.
That's literally what's fucking happening. But that is because of the way the rules are written. It's not because that's just the natural, for those listening, go search for, and if you can't find it, you're welcome to ask us for the link, or if you're in the self-perfected group, maybe we can just put the link in the chat. There's a video from Bernard Pullman called "Poverty is the Natural State of the Human," and he's handling that objection that people have. Oh, poverty is our natural state. So the capitalist who comes in and works the land or creates the resources, they deserve it because otherwise we'd be in poverty, right? But that's not our natural state. And if you're a Christian and you go along with that, if I say Christian, what do you assume? Pro-capitalism, not pro-capitalism.
Pro-capitalism.
Most likely, especially if, like American Christian, right?
Yeah.
But didn't we live in the Garden of Eden?
Yeah.
Initially?
Yeah.
And wasn't our sin the reason why it fucked it up?
Yeah.
So maybe if we fucking learned the lesson and we stopped doing and we kind of like walked it back of like, well, how were we like that in the first place? Oh, nope, it's over. We're done. It already happened. Now we just have hope. We have hope because Jesus died and he resurrected. Now we have hope. Hope for what? Is it hope that we can get back to the Garden of Eden and create that on earth by using
No.
What?
No.
What is the hope?
That's not the hope.
You're going to die. And then there's going to be a Garden of Eden waiting for you.
But the thing is,
Cameron,
Cameron, how can a Garden of Eden exist after you die if there's still abuse and suffering on earth? So theoretically, say you go to heaven when you die, and theoretically you're in complete bliss in heaven. How could you possibly be in complete bliss if there's still abuse on earth?
It's called
There's still
turning-
all these children dying every
turning
day.
a blind eye.
All these
Turning a blind
preventable
eye.
diseases every day is happening.
Right.
And you think that just because you die and you go to heaven, that you'll be in bliss and you won't have to deal with any of the consequences of that abuse? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, Jess, no. See, you don't understand. Like, God has a plan, okay? So first off, let me just tell you,
Okay.
God has a plan, and it's a really good plan. I cannot possibly understand it because I'm retarded. But when God brings me up to his high throne, I will be able to see things from his perspective, and I will understand his plan, because then I will be like, I'll basically be like as smart as God, because only then can I actually understand his plan. I'm just so limited right now. I just can't understand things. So I'm waiting for that, because then when I look at all the abuse, it'll just be like, wow, it'll be beautiful to me actually. And I know that's hard for you to imagine right now. And to be honest, it's kind of hard for me to imagine too, but you just have to accept that.
You just have to have hope and faith
Yeah.
that that's what's going to happen. Like if you apply that logic to anything on earth, let's say you want to build a garden in your backyard. So you hire some landscapers and they come over and you're like, okay, so can you build this garden? They're like, yeah. What experience do you have? Oh, don't worry about that. What do you mean? We have a plan. Well, can you kind of tell me a little bit about the plan? Like, how are you going to build a garden? I don't know. It's going to work out. Oh, yeah. You just have to trust me. It'll be great. It's going to be like amazing. You just have to have faith that we're going to do it. Like, what? Yeah, you wouldn't understand it. It's just, but we have a plan. Like, you would be like, no, like, tell me what you're going to do. You wouldn't accept that. But the most important thing in reality,
hang on, wait,
you're like,
Cam,
don't really need to know.
Cam, wait. Hang on. How much is this garden going to cost? Your life. Just fucking give me your fucking life. and then we'll start on the garden.
Yeah. What's pretty cool about it is you die, and then you're gonna like come back to life, and you're gonna have a garden.
Okay. All right,
You know, we were talking about like gambling, like your food in your pantry. You're literally gambling your life. You're like the most important thing that you could possibly fathom, your life in this reality. You're like, I'm just going to assume that as real as this is, there's something more real than this. And it doesn't follow any of the basic pattern or rules of this reality, even though it was all fundamentally created by the same person who's going to create the other one. And it was because we screwed it up. We screwed it up. And there's nothing we can do to fix this now. We can't change ourselves. Only God can change us, but he's only going to do that after we're dead and we're in that place. That's when we're going to be changed, and we're not going to do the same shit we're doing now, because we'll be there and we'll be changed. But he can't change us yet because Jesus died, he was resurrected, and now we're saved. But it's like a coupon that's for a sale happening next week. You can't use it now. You got to wait.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I get it.
So what
Don't
if
question any of this, children.
not.
Children, just eat the chocolate, play with the Easter eggs, stare at the naked dude on the cross hanging with blood dripping out of his side.
it's
You did
so
that.
funny. It's so funny
You did
because
that, you little piece of shit.
Yeah.
people feel guilty about eating quote unquote sugar, when in reality, it's all the bullshit you add to that. It's all the food dyes, preservatives, and all these other substances that are highly addictive. And it's the processing of the sugar that makes it so fucked up. And then you have all these emotional, visceral connections and memories associated to these
like severe
candies,
guilt.
where you're like, I have yours. It's literally like you've fallen in love with these candies, and even just the thought of them just makes your mouth water. You're like, ooh, I'm so excited. Those Starburst jelly beans. Ooh. And you literally are like, and then you eat them and you're like, oh, you go back to all the memories from all your childhood, every time you ever had the Starburst jelly beans, and how every time you got the egg that had the Starburst jelly beans, you were like, oh yes, my favorite. Yeah. And it's like, you're literally just emotionally addicted to poison. And you are teaching your children to do that for themselves, and you're teaching your kids
that's literally
that they
religion.
have to teach their kids about that.
That's literally religion. You're addicted to poison.
It's a really cool point that you brought up, Jess, of like, you have a relationship with this like candy, this sugar or whatever. And it's like, okay, think about like a bad breakup, right? Like you had a relationship with someone, and like there's all these emotions intertwined. So there are these good times, there's these bad times, whatever. And then literally you get around that person, or you even think about that person. It's not just like, oh, like I love this person. It's like everything comes with that. All the emotional trauma, all the memories come back up with that. And then that has a physical effect in your body as well.
But why do you think when people go through a breakup, like the stereotypical woman going through a breakup, oh, she eats a shit ton of ice cream and all these treats? Because she has an emotional attachment to those treats and that ice cream. And so in that moment, instead of dealing with the emotions she's processing with the breakup, she goes and she said, ooh, let me suppress those and replace them with these happy associations I have that make me warm and comforted. And it's something that is guaranteed to give me these things. And then you take it to the extreme and you go beyond just like suppressing it with sugar, because, that's hyper normalized, that's just for the normal people, the people who are playing in the easy realm, saying like, oh, I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not doing anything. I'm not drinking alcohol. Then you have the people that are, oh, I really need to suppress this. Give me some alcohol. And they go and they be drinking a whole bottle of wine. They're like, oh, let me watch this rom-com, drink this whole bottle of wine, and they probably not just have the wine, they probably also have the treats. And then someone goes beyond that, and then they introduce drugs. And it's like, it's this huge thing that just gets layered and layered and layered on top of each other to an extreme where people just go to these extreme measures just to suppress something because they would rather not deal with that at all and introduce other things that they've got associations with that's going to make them feel better in that moment. And it's like, I remember, like, so it's funny because I brought up the Starburst jelly beans thing because that was one of my go-tos at Easter.
I didn't even know Starburst did jelly beans.
Dude, the Starburst jelly beans hit differently than regular jelly beans.
Okay.
Not
We
that
know
I would eat them
Starbursts are
now.
like totally toxic. Oh, there's the Skittles that are toxic. Never mind.
No, they're
Not that
probably
Starbursts
just
aren't
as
toxic.
toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember like anytime like they started doing those Starburst jelly beans for like other holidays because they got so popular. And
Wait,
I
was it started out
remember-
as an Easter thing?
what was that?
What was the holiday it started with?
Easter, for
Easter,
sure.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, everyone's going to do their variation of a jelly bean because jelly beans were notorious for Easter for whatever reason. Maybe they look like eggs or something.
You could put them in those plastic eggs.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
small enough.
Yeah. And
Also, they look like rabbit shit.
That's true. Which is an
Nice.
important part of
You
these.
know, it's
you
so
wanna
funny
keep
what
on
the
brand.
phrase that keeps like turning in my head is God bless America. Because it's like, think about this super like powerful nation that like just destroys everything about them, like, you know, like the people and like the like what like it's just this point of, oh, like it's almost like God is in control. You know what I mean? Like it's given all this power to this great nation, but look at what they're doing to their own people and then to like the rest of the world as well, which like anyways, it's just funny because it's like it's so messed up, like how it's like a justification of this like superpower and it's in God's control and like we're just all benefiting from it, but
Yeah.
then like look at the rest of the world and
God
like
has
look at
blessed us. That's why we have fucking drag queen story hour. We've got BLM riots. We've got fucking Joe Biden as a president. Like,
You know, it's funny though. It's sort of like, you know, when you look back on ancient.
but hold on.
cultures,
It's because the people have gone away from God.
that's it. That's what happened.
But also we can't change anything. So
But if you look at like, you know, the ancient Greeks or something like that, it's like, oh yeah, like they were sacrificing whatever to Zeus, you know, sacrificing this, sacrificing that. It's like, okay, so we have this sacrifice of our children to this god, where it's like, oh yeah. So what you would do is you just set up like as many people as possible, the entire nation if you could, right? And then you go into these like these you know, little rituals where you have like a naked guy who's like bleeding and he's like he's been tortured. Like the whole story is so first off, you got to get the backstory first. The backstory is like he's the son of God, and like you just torture the fuck out of him, right? And
he was
like,
betrayed by one of his students.
yeah, betrayed by like,
And he saw it
one of his
coming, but he
closest
couldn't see it
people.
coming.
exactly. And so then like he's like bleeding out on his back. We even have like a whole movie where you could watch it and like you watch
Wasn't
him, like,
it that he
tortured.
saw it coming, but he was told that it was necessary more so?
Yeah, God was like, he was like, hey, I think I'm about to be sacrificed. He's like texting his dad. He's like, I think they're gonna kill me, Dad. And he's like, yeah. What do you mean? Yeah. Yeah, that's the plan. Wait, that's the plan?
Just the
Yeah,
plan.
you know this. You're me. You know this. Yeah, I know I'm you, but I'm also not you. I'm also a human. So like that part of me doesn't know. Yeah, just go with that part and like really play into the suffering. And you knew it was coming, but then also mysteriously when you're on the cross, say, God, why have you forsaken me? Because that's really going to fuck with people's minds. Because they're going to be like, wait, so like, is Jesus God? Or is he like, why is he forsaking himself? But also he loves himself. So I'm very confused.
I okay, so earlier you brought up like the pagan traditions, and I knew about some of them, but someone made this post on somewhere, by probably Instagram, and they were going in depth about the pagan traditions, and they were like, I'm not going to go in depth on it because it's maybe not exactly appropriate.
Or were they like a Christian person anti?
Yeah, they were
like somehow anti like these pagan things.
Yes. So they were saying we don't participate in any typical Easter traditions because of its pagan roots, and explaining all the pagan roots. And then they were like, so all we do is have a big meal and paint pots to plant plants in instead.
Because they still want to
What?
participate in the pagan stuff. They're just like,
We're just gonna choose a pot instead of an egg.
that's it.
But also like we don't want to do any of the eggs or bunnies or fun parts. We just want to focus purely on the sacrifice of our God.
Remember,
That's the part, the human sacrifice. That's the part that we want our children to really, so we don't want to distract them with anything else. We want to get just the pure sacrifice part. That's not pagan at all.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm glad they do that. The points that you're making, just even of like how, we'll go and eat a bunch of sugary sweets whenever there's a breakup or you lost your job or whatever the fuck it is, right? And
whenever you don't feel the exact way you want to feel.
Right. Instead of
you know what it is? We're breaking up with TikTok in America.
Oh, is that what's happening?
Yeah, you know how they want to ban TikTok. So like Easter is like we get to eat all the chocolate and stuff, and like I think that's what's going on.
So this is our line.
I bet if you go back in history before every Easter, there's like some kind of like breakup that happens culturally.
Yeah. And then,
that's before any holiday. Literally, they use a holiday as an opportunity to roll something out because everybody's distracted, especially Christmas. There's a lot of historical events or policies that have been passed right before Christmas.
Or even on Christmas Day. Right?
Literally.
Like our banking system here in America. Right. But it's interesting because that whole starting point is essentially like people are talking about how AI will make things better or whatever, but then if you actually listen to any of the people who are at all well versed in it, they're like, we have a huge fucking problem coming up because AI is literally just us. Like I love we've been talking about this for a while as far as our minds are AI, right? Our minds are artificial intelligence, where it will literally just optimize for whatever we've been programmed for already, right? And because of that, everything that we create also feeds into that. And so we have this streak of competitiveness within us. It's not even really competitiveness. It's that we're afraid that we are going to miss out. We are afraid that we are going to lose in some way because we had this starting point of separation from the beginning. And so because
it's that fear of loss point.
Exactly. And so because somebody else is taking all the water from the earth and somebody else is taking all the oil and they're making all the money from that, it's like, okay, well, if I don't grab something and start raping the earth, even though I know that's not what I really want to do, but if I don't do that, then well, somebody else is going to do it. It's like nobody takes the moment to stop and go, wait a minute, like, can we just all stop? Actually, hang on. To be fair, Jesus did say, why don't you all just fucking stop this bullshit and take care of one another? And they were like, fuck this guy, kill him, put him on a cross.
It wasn't the Jews who killed Jesus, by the way. I think that's a conspiracy theory. It's an anti-Semitic conspiracy. Yeah, because it was the Romans.
At the behest of the Jews, apparently.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
But who was he really challenging?
Let's see. He was
actually, they're probably working together, but you see, like the blame goes on. Like everyone just forgives Pontius Pilate. Like, he was just doing what the Jews wanted. Like, okay, really? So like the ruling fucking government was like, I my hands are tied. I have no say. And it's like, really?
It's what
So
the Jews
maybe it was like a
want.
working together thing, you know, but he was like challenging the system. Like imagine he was like, hey, because he was challenging the whole you know, like money changing in the temples. And I'm sure he was like going hard on the Jews and everything. But then with the Romans, he was challenging the system of, I mean, think about at that time, like the expansion of the empire, you know, it was like on the verge of collapse at that point. It was getting to that point. So he was there to be like, hey guys, things are gonna not get very good and we need to change things. People couldn't hear him. And he was trying to remind them, like, you're not just like a slave to this system. So the system itself was like, we can't allow this guy to talk and say these things.
Yeah.
So
It's
then
like
what do we do?
that's-
So then what does the system do? Every year it reminds every child, do not try to stand up, do not try to change anything, because if you try to change the actual system that is here, this is what will happen to you. Remember, just have hope and faith that so it's like it's a dual symbol. It's used to stop you from ever changing the system, and it takes that and it says, but don't despair. Have the hope and the faith that you'll have it later. So we're not taking it away, we're just postponing it. But it
It's
teaches the child never to stand up in this world.
it's so
Yeah.
interesting because it's like, okay, can the system sacrifice every single person? Like, can it crucify every single person? No. But if we all stood together, we could all change the system, obviously, right? But it's like everyone thinks of, oh, but I don't want that to be me. And so everyone starts off with just looking at themselves, right? And just like what's going on in my own world. Jess, I saw your mouth moving, but
I
no
know.
comment.
I was saying, but Drake, he died for all of us, so we don't have to.
Right. Right. But okay, look at that, right? It's
Did he
like
die for the Muslims and the Chinese and the fucking
all of them, all of them. So they don't even have to believe in him. That's the really
No, no,
beautiful
no,
thing.
no, 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 no. You have to believe. that
Well,
he
later,
died
you believe later.
on the cross for you, or else you are not saved. Or else you won't go to heaven and be in bliss, even though there's abuse on earth happening.
So I don't get it. Like, what is the point of it? Like, what is the point of celebrating Easter? Because there's a billion Chinese people who aren't celebrating it. And is God literally like, okay, is every child sacred?
yeah.
Only the ones
Okay.
that believe.
And is God the one infusing the child with a soul at conception?
Apparently.
So could God choose to not infuse souls and not allow parents in China to conceive who are like pagans and whatever,
Well,
and Muslims and shit? So
But
this is what I
then
was
you
talking
wouldn't
about.
have a population who chooses to believe, Cameron. We have free will.
see, this is what I was
That's
talking
the
about.
magic of,
so God already knows in
Believe.
advance some of you are going to choose and some of you aren't.
yes.
And that's the beauty of his plan.
And
Okay.
so your children chose to be Christian because you did not
Yes.
because you impulse them. Yeah.
Well,
Just like
I
they
know,
chose
they-
to be obsessed
They
with fucking
freely
Boston.
chose. They freely
I
chose.
supported them to understand it so they could make the right choice.
They
I
freely chose to go
explained
to school
everything
too, huh?
to them.
But okay, school's that thing that's like
They freely
have
chose
to
to
do
brush their
this,
teeth. They freely chose
otherwise
to
somebody else
take the
will.
bath.
Yeah.
They freely chose to do their homework.
Well, there's just certain things
Yeah,
that
but
obviously you have to
Those are just
teach
important
them.
things.
Like-
Yeah, obviously. But you don't want to teach them about God. I mean, that's not why we go to church. It's not because we're trying to like impulse them. Like,
But you just need to have faith in something, Cam. Like you just like in something, like what some higher power, like out of yourself.
What if
you
we
know?
just had
Cameron-
faith
but
that we could
Cameron,
actually change the system?
How can you say that when there are tons of people who grow up in Christian homes that choose not to believe in Christianity? There is still free choice. No matter where you grow up, you choose to believe.
How does your choice to believe have an impact on whether you go to heaven or not?
Because if you don't choose to believe, then you don't go to heaven. You go to hell.
So does the environment that you're born into and that you raised in, that you live in, have any impact on that choice?
You know,
Of course not. That's
And
you
then
have
why
free
not just
will.
allow everyone to make the choice the moment you are dead and you're facing the option of heaven or not? Have the choice
Mhm.
then, because otherwise there's no reason to evangelize, because you're telling people about it in advance so they can make the choice here on earth. But
Because then you can live and dedicate your life to getting other people to make that choice.
it's their choice. You should not influence it.
Yeah, but how will they know that they have that choice unless I give them and show them that they have that choice?
Then why not? Then why not just only let people be born into Christian households? Because that would be easily giving them the choice in an environment where people are already talking about it. There's
We're
no
like a
fucking
third
chance.
We're
Let
like
me
a
ask you a
third of the
question.
way there.
Has any child grown up and not been Christian, not been born into a Christian household, grown up not been Christian, died and not been Christian? The whole time
Yes.
their life,
Absolutely.
birth, death was not Christian. Okay,
Muslim.
so did God fuck up?
Because he
He's
didn't give him a choice.
He's still working on it.
Because you're like, well, people could have the opportunity to. That's why they have to go out there and save them, but they weren't saved. So did people fuck up or did God fuck up?
See, at this point, this is where the
And if
question
people
would be
fucked
like,
up, then we do have an effect on reality.
That's why we have missionaries, Cameron. You have
So
the
we can have an
mission.
effect. so we
God
can have
has
an
given
effect on-
you the mission to go out and give everyone the choice. That's your life mission. You have to be a disciple. That's why you have to go find more disciples. And you all go out and give everyone the choice. That's the mission of your livelihood.
So hold on.
There's
So
nothing
what you're
else
saying?
important.
Okay, so are you suggesting that I sort of take sort of like a direct sales network marketing type approach of going around and expanding people's vocabulary about something?
Yeah, but only about the choice that they have to either go to hell or heaven. And
Only
the
about
choice
that.
is
Okay.
you have to believe
But
that
also, hold on.
Jesus died on the cross for your sins. And if you don't, you go to hell. And if you do, you go to heaven. And heaven, you'll be in bliss, even though there's still abuse happening on
But
earth.
also,
And there's
does it
still
matter-
children dying on
Hold on.
earth.
Does it matter which particular denomination of Christianity?
I was gonna say Jehovah's Witness. They're already going door to door. Like they are on a mission.
And so are the Mormons, but they don't agree with each other.
they
Hey,
do not.
This
If
is
you're
the
not
problem.
Catholic, you go to hell.
This is a problem because God's giving people a choice, but how do I know which choice to make? Because it's not like a choice between God or not God. It's like even if
That's
I
why
choose
you have
God,
to
then
study,
I have to choose
Cameron.
between all the choices within God, and I'm
You
like,
have to
God
study
will-
all of it.
No,
You
God
have
will
to
put it
study
on your
all
all
of
of
heart.
it.
Islam.
He'll put it on your heart. That's it.
But even
You'll
Islam-
just
Go
know.
Because
based
if I go
off
to
your
Islam-
feelings,
if I go to-
Cameron. Whatever you feel most resonates with you. Whatever you feel is right. Whatever
But what if I feel we
makes
should
your
change the
heart
system?
warm. Wherever God speaks to you.
But what if he speaks to me and says we should change the system?
So okay. So at this point,
Then
I
that
know
I
think
should
that you have
convince
to
everybody
use your
else to do it.
discernment to know that's the devil.
a lot of people would just go like, you're trying to use human logic to understand God. Okay. And that's the problem.
But if you actually start studying Christianity,
Mhm.
they use so much fucking logic to try to prove why their beliefs are true.
There's so many YouTube videos on the scientific proof that God exists.
Not even just the scientific proof. It's just like within the structure of their beliefs. It's like all of this like logic to like tie it all together. It's not like, oh, it's just God spoke to me and he made it really clear to me that, God's real. You have those too. It's kind of like Baptists, I guess. It's just like your personal relationship, whatever with God, it's like, it's a lot. It's like going to Golden Corral and you're just like, I don't know what to eat. You guys do have Golden Corral? It's like
Yeah,
one of those
yeah.
big buffet type
We have
restaurants.
Golden Corral.
They're like everywhere, right?
Yeah.
We do.
You know?
I don't think I've ever been.
And
to
what
one.
I'm saying is,
I've
I'm
never
not
been
going to
but we
Golden
might have.
Corral. I'm not going there. I'm choosing not to even partake.
You're not going to go to Golden Corral.
That's what I'm saying.
Wait. How are you supposed to eat the fucking macaroni and cheese? How are you
Yeah.
supposed to get the soft serve ice cream?
Hey, with all this mRNA stuff happening with food nowadays, I'm like, I'll eat from home. I'll grow my own food. I'm good on that. That's not good enough for me to not want to eat my own food.
How are you supposed to enjoy Golden Corral if you stay at home? Cameron, explain yourself.
I'll just
You're
look
sure
up
they'll
a
have, like,
Corral
an
recipe
online
and make my
option
own
at some
version.
point.
It's so messed up because like I know we're on like the level 1, like just trying to, get people to think beyond what they currently believe about all this kind of stuff. But it's like when you actually study destiny and like with the actual like significance of like heaven and earth and like the system and the money system, all that kind of stuff and how it interplays with like you as a being, it is so messed up and totally like not what you'd even expect of what all of this was actually designed for. So it's like Do you want to realize this now, or do you want to wait literally until you die? And then you're really faced with like the consequence of realizing what the fuck you just participated in. So
It's like everyone, all the religions trying to get people to get everyone to realize that they need to, how can I explain it? It's like they need to accept something before they die so that when they die, they go to heaven. And we're trying to tell people like, figure this out before you die, because you're going to get to that point when you die and realize it was all lies. And then that's just continuing the world that we're in to be fucked. And it's like the most obvious thing.
Okay, but
And yet
also
we are
it's like
so fucking brainwashed from childhood to be literally retarded.
you can choose.
And then we think we're smart. Hold on. We think we're smart because we can go to our job and do our little task and make enough money to barely survive. So we think we're smart. But then we'll be like, oh yeah, but I also believe that I drink the blood of my Lord and Savior every weekend. Like,
Right.
Really? You believe that?
Right.
There's billion people on the fucking planet that believe that.
Yeah, it's really just like, okay, like you said, everybody's so retarded. And then you put a fucking quantum physics book in front of them, and you're like, this is like just study this and we'll be good. Everyone's like, I don't understand any of this shit. Clearly you're wrong. You just came up with all this gobbledygook.
Think about the average person that's like, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus Christ, God, Savior, heaven, all this stuff, right? And then you're like, yeah, okay, separate topic. Let's just say separate topic, right? What do you think about math? How'd you do in math class? What are they gonna say?
I hate fucking math.
Oh, I fucking
I
hate
did
math.
good.
I could never do math.
Good. I got an engineering degree.
That's not what the average person's gonna
The
say.
average person's not gonna say that. They're gonna say
It's not the
they
average person.
hate
They're gonna be like, oh, I fucking hate math. And it's like, right, okay, you're dumb.
Right.
You're like, literally, I don't know how to add fractions. I don't know how to fucking like calculate the tip on a meal. Oh, but you understand fucking God and heaven and reality and saviors and this and that and all that. Oh, okay, yeah. But you can't fucking do basic math. Got it.
Listen, Cameron, okay, God is not about math. First off, and second off, like just just because you're into math, not everybody's born with the capabilities to do math. Okay, like some people are not math people, some people are not like English people. It's like everybody has their own separate.
In the beginning was the word.
Exactly.
So yeah,
it's just words.
so numbers are not words.
Not numbers. Definitely not numbers. See, if God really wanted us to know math, it would have been in the beginning was the numbers. Okay. Even though numbers is one of the first books of the Bible.
Even though numbers are just words. Yeah, like literally it's a book in the Bible called Numbers.
Right. But it's like, but that's like different because in the beginning was the word and then later on came numbers.
Okay, all this aside, whether you participate in that or not, Easter or whatever, if you really believe that if I believe this, then I'm going to go to heaven. Okay, let's put all that aside. There's so much fucking abuse happening on this earth. And if you're going to choose to live a life, we don't do anything to prevent that or anything to change that. That's like the definition of being the fucking devil. You're like the devil reincarnated. You're actively choosing not to do anything about the abuse happening in the world, regardless of what you believe, what you think is going to happen after you die, regardless of all that. You can do any of that, whatever. You're participating in abuse. You're not willing to change a system that is creating insane amount of abuse.
No, but it's because
we're allowing the president of the United States to be a fucking degenerate old person who can't even speak coherently whatsoever. Hello?
Okay. All right, Justice called me the devil. How do I turn this off? How do I,
But Jess, more people ever in history voted for him. More than any other president ever in history. So either that's true.
Yeah, but the voting fraud doesn't matter, Cameron, because he's
whoa,
better than
whoa,
Donald
whoa.
Trump.
Numbers don't matter.
Who's saying
We
voting
will
fraud?
not-
Let's slow down here.
I don't
matter.
care if there was voting fraud as long as Donald Trump wasn't in office. Give me the degenerate. He's better than Trump.
Who's saying voting fraud? Nobody's saying voting fraud. Nobody said that. We're just saying the most amount of people on planet, like, well, okay, in the United States history, let's just go with that. The most amount of
Either
people
that, or people can't count votes.
ever. Which would not be
Machine,
surprising.
Cameron.
Exactly.
It's a
We already have the
machine.
statistics.
Yeah,
2/3
trust
of
the
Americans can't
machines,
do
the
math.
machines. It's all about the machines these days. It's about
Mm.
We literally had
AI.
the same voting machines here in Minnesota when we voted for our governor. The
We don't
same
even
exact-
need to vote anymore. Why don't we just have AIs tell us what we would have voted for?
They will.
That is what's going to happen. Like, well, even though the votes say this, the AI says that's not what actually would have happened. So we're going to go with the AI. They're going to have
Based
think about it,
on
they're
what
gonna have
everyone
algorithmic
posted
vote
on
counting.
social media.
Huh?
Based on what I allowed everyone to post on social media, these are the votes.
Why couldn't they literally have an online database that has every single person's vote and who they voted for?
No, it's got to be
Because-
anonymous.
Why does it
I
have to be
don't want to
anonymous?
deal with the shame from everyone knowing who I voted for.
Who the
I
fuck
don't want
actually
people to
keeps
tell
their
me
vote
that
a
I'm
secret?
evil because of who I
Don't you have
voted
to
for.
register as like a Democrat or Republican here? Isn't that like a thing
Only if
in
you want to vote in the
America?
primaries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's
Why
only
does
in
it have to
certain
be a
states.
secret who you voted for? Why shouldn't you have to publicly stand behind who you voted for?
Oh,
Because obviously,
people could
if you
not do that.
talk about
Is
who you
voting
voted
in Congress anonymous?
No.
Is voting for the Supreme Court anonymous?
No.
Like, because they have to select. Is approval of presidential appointees anonymous?
No.
Why is that? Oh, it has to be anonymous, guys, so we can't keep track
For the
of
public.
It's just a side effect. We can't keep track of it and actually make sure that it was done.
It
properly.
has to be, it can't be public because then I won't be able to actually speak from my heart because I'll be afraid of what people like how they judge me from
Right, but
me
I'm gonna put a
actually
Trump
being
sign in my
myself.
yard. But I'm gonna put a
Put
Trump sign in my yard.
yard.
Or
Right.
and then whenever Trump does shit I don't like or Biden does something, I'm gonna be like, that's not my president. I didn't vote for him. I mean, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know.
I was just thinking that
Like
Well,
everyone
people-
fucking talks about who they voted for. Like
Yeah.
it's so true. But I was thinking like, well, then people would just exercise their First Amendment, right of like using firearms because of who they voted for.
Second.
You know what I mean? Or Second
Second.
Amendment? Okay. Oh yeah, free speech is
First
the first.
Amendment.
words.
First.
Yeah.
are more
Words
In
is
the
powerful.
beginning was the word.
Words are more powerful than bombs.
Yeah. Okay.
Because without words, let me ask you a question. Those of you out there, do you know how to build a bomb? You don't. Why not? Because you don't have the
ChatGPT
vocabulary.
will
So
let me
what
know.
comes first? I'm just saying, what comes first?
Well, even with ChatGPT, it's the words that come first, and then they
It's
teach
like,
you how
well,
to build
but
the
they
bomb.
didn't know about it before they invented. Okay, but you tried. You'll never figure it out.
Let me just put a bunch of chemicals together. Something will happen.
You'll die.
Put a bunch of metals in
I'll,
those chemicals.
I'll start with vinegar and baking soda.
Like, I didn't make it
And some
explosive,
Mentos.
but I made a nice cleaning agent for my kitchen.
It didn't make an explosion, but I made a volcano for my
Yeah.
kid's science fair project.
I know how to make volcanoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's interesting because I mean it's essentially what we've talked about this entire time. Like, go back to the beginning of the podcast, you'll see Cameron talking about like Chat GPT. You'll see us talking about how artificial
So weird because I don't even
intelligence
remember talking about it.
I know, right?
It was,
was like
it was an old episode.
2 years ago or something. And I'm like, and we were saying the stuff that it was doing now. It was so weird.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
not
yeah.
public back then. So we only knew like what the researchers were saying because they've had it for a while, the public version.
Right.
Anyways,
Right. But now it's
If
like,
it's not obvious to you yet, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're obviously not being honest with yourself. Like, if you have listened to
But
any
Jess,
of this
Dylan
podcast-
Mulvaney is on a Bud Light can.
and
Dylan
I'm
Dylan
outraged.
Mulvaney is sponsored by Nike.
I will no
Jack
longer
Daniels is doing drag queens.
well, guess
So-
what?
Jesus
There's
needs
still
to-
thousands of children dying every day from preventable causes. So fuck your emotional triggers and pay attention to the actual abuse
Do you want to
happening
know?
in the
Do you want to
world.
know a preventable cause? That could be, a thing that could be prevented. Brainwashing your child to be retarded.
yeah.
And to
Oh
believe in
yeah.
Christianity and to believe in
Totally.
Easter. That's a
Or-
preventable cause. That's the number one
Oh,
preventable
never mind.
cause.
You know
I'm
what
not
else
gonna-
is a preventable cause? Is being able to do math or not do math. That's a preventable cause.
You know,
Not being able to
people
or
read.
actually boycotting Nike and Bud Light because Nike uses slavery to make their clothes, and Bud Light is fucking beer and alcohol, which you don't need to poison yourself. So who really cares
Also-
if Dylan Mulvaney
I know,
is?
imagine getting hours. I'm never drinking Bud Light again. I'm like,
There's
okay.
a small
fuck are you
percentage of the
drinking it?
population that might say that autism is preventable.
Well, yeah.
We're
Obviously.
definitely not getting back on YouTube.
Okay, I've been seeing a bunch of these posts recently where they're correlating.
ASD.
I'm not correlating this. I'm just seeing the posts that are correlating autism, transgenderism.
Oh yeah, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
You get fixated on something and then it
Yeah.
overcomes your entire being and nobody can say shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if they're
Um,
going to school. Right?
Oh, that's
Like-
another thing you could prevent. You know who's
Putting
never,
your kids in
never
school.
gonna die in a school shooting?
Your kids.
My kids.
My kids are never going to die. in a
And
school
you're in
shooting
one of
either.
those gun law states, you know?
Hey, Mitchell's
And then I'm
pretty
surrounded by
set
guns.
on 6 kids, guys. Mitchell's pretty set on 6 kids.
6 kids.
We were on a walk yesterday and he's like, ooh, imagine us going out to eat with 6 kids. The bill is going to be so much higher. I'm so excited for
Golden
that.
Corral, man, I'm telling you. You're like, you walk in with 6 kids, you're like, oh, you guys need the food trough option. It's like you don't sit at a what do they call those? The booths.
Yeah.
It's just like you have a food trough and they just like slop it in. You never been to Golden Corral?
I don't think I have. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe it's just a southern. No, it's not just a southern thing. I've been to Golden Corrals in other.
It's just like a
states.
shitty buffet.
It is, but it's.
It looks pretty
I've maybe been when I was younger, but definitely not recently.
Well, when you have 6, when you have the 6, but I think 6 is a good number. You know, I would have more kids if we didn't start so late.
Yeah.
If I could recommend anything, it's to go back in time and to start building your vocabulary and walking destiny process before, you know.
So he recommends going back.
yeah,
in
well,
time.
We're already planning on when we're going to conceive next. Pretty excited about that.
You know, live stream it.
It's on Sunday.
I don't think we'll be live streaming the conception.
That's the only part anyone cares about.
Big bang.
Speaking of AI, I'm taking a course on the 30th, I think. I'm taking a
Oh.
course in AI because I don't know enough about it.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, because like we're having trouble getting our cow to conceive because you have to have the dairy cow
Oh, artificial
constantly.
insemination. Jeez, I was like,
What do you guys think I was talking about?
the fuck are you talking about?
No, I knew that's what you were talking about.
That's the only
Well,
AI
I know
that
now.
matters.
Tell me more.
In
Tell me.
AI, you
more,
stick your
tell
hand
me
up a
more.
cow's
No, no.
vagina, I guess.
Mhm.
With
Yeah. Well,
right.
Probably.
But like with
Not that-
with the other AI, they're just sticking their fist up everyone else's,
You know what?
essentially. I was trying to make a joke. It didn't work, but you know, it's like I'm the
Sorry.
Michael Jordan of comedy. It's the shots, you know, you just take thousands of shots.
Yeah,
Right.
some of them land, some of them don't.
Right.
that's pretty good. Did you talk
I'm
about
more like the
midget-
Dennis Rodman.
More like the Dennis Rodman.
Freaking crazy. Dennis Rodman was literally insane.
No, he wasn't.
I
No,
mean,
he's actually pretty cool if you look into him. He's actually pretty cool.
no, I mean like in a good way. Like he was a crazy good defensive specialist.
Oh,
Like,
I don't know anything about
really
basketball.
amazing. And also it was funny because he went against all the norms in basketball. Like, did you see all his different hairstyles he had? It just completely like
He was the original trans NBA player.
yeah.
I mean, he did wear a dress. I think to his own wedding.
And like he would leave
Was that to his
So it's
I-
weird that
the
he's
day
like,
before the games, and like he would break contract all the time, and they'd be like, "Oh, it's okay because it's Dennis."
but do you know he was all about like peace with North Korea?
Yeah.
Did you know that? He
I
would
didn't
like
know
go to
about
North
his-
Korea and like
I don't know
visit
about
North
his
Korea.
political
Yeah, no,
affiliated
like
with
that's what I was referring to. Like he's like totally into like all that stuff. It's kind of weird, which is weird that they would let him over there. They're like, oh, we want the most weird fucking person possible in America to come visit our country.
Dennis. Oh,
Yeah.
Dennis.
So what else, guys? I mean, how much more can you really say about all this? Oh, Drake, you mentioned that point about emergent capabilities in the chat because I said remind me about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of out of context now, but since we were talking about the AI, artificial intelligence, there was a video. I was just reflecting on this point because a lot of people are saying how they just keep putting more data into these things, and then like suddenly they develop these abilities that they didn't have before.
Right.
You have to understand that the programmers for OpenAI are not like programming it to be able to write a story.
Right.
They're not programming it to suddenly be able to interpret text. It's like they're giving it access to more data and more parameters, or they're just upgrading the amount of information that it has.
Isn't it just learning how to do it on its own because it's
Right.
That's
observing
what
it?
he's saying.
Right.
That's
It's
what
just
he's saying.
giving it more data to look at and to focus on and get
Like
give
access
itself
to it.
feedback on.
Holy
And,
shit. Okay.
and like suddenly
I know
these
exactly what
abilities
you're
just
gonna
like
say.
come out of nowhere. Like, holy fuck, now it can like
Imagine that's what you do as a person instead of an AI.
that's what I'm trying to say,
You
damn it.
actually look at
Just-
more information. You actually try and do more with your life.
Well,
No
hold on.
fucking
I'm
way.
trying to
What
tell
a
it.
concept.
Hang on,
No
Jess.
way.
Tell it.
Cameron's like, I'm done.
No, but that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, so, and the reason I brought it up is because with the kids, for example, right? So the other day, when Katie and I went out because we needed to set up like this electric fencing. We're doing this rotational grazing thing. It's a whole thing. We were out for a while. She had Caius with her on her back. Our two other kids, they're just doing stuff. I don't know. We come back in the house and it's getting close to dinner time, and the kids had cleaned up like all of their books, all of their stuff, drawings that they usually have all over the table. Normally, Katie has to say to them, "Hey, can you guys clean off the table?" And we just remind them to do it. But like they had done all that, and we were like, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we cleaned everything up." We were like, "Okay, cool." Like no one asked them to do that; they just spontaneously did it, right?
Wow. Who
Their
does
reading
that?
ability. Like, think about this, guys. We did not teach our kids to read, but they know how to read and are way more advanced than any children their age, even close. It's an emergent capability that comes from. So if you think about TechnoTutor, what it is in a certain sense is it's for human beings, what they're doing with all these AIs. They're loading them up with all this data and all these
Wow.
connections. And then suddenly it can do certain things. And that's what your vocabulary is. You're already doing it naturally as a human being from your environment. You're absorbing all this information. And that's why you learn to walk, talk, etc. Those are emergent capabilities. No one taught you to walk. Really think about it. No one sat in there and was like, here's how, like, think about how you learn how to dance. Even dancing is a bad example because a lot of it you absorb just by watching. But like there's instruction. Like, okay, you need to move your leg like this, or you need to take that pose. Like there's at least some level of instruction, but you don't do that at all with teaching a kid to walk. You just kind of, I know because we didn't do any of that with Caius, and he's walking because you see other people doing it. It's like you get data and then it emerges. So this is already happening with your kids. It's just, you're doing it haphazardly, and you're only doing it in the first, let's say 5, 6, 7 years, depending on the child, but just randomly. And you're filling it up. It's like you're giving them Netflix, you're giving them whatever Disney Plus, Disney shows, Paw Patrol, whatever the things are. You're giving them, you're giving them like fucking Transformer movies of violence, all kinds of shit. You're giving them Easter, you're giving them sacrifice, you're giving them guilt, you're giving them all this shit. That's what they're like, the patterns they're absorbing. And what we're doing with TechnoTutor is you're giving them the raw data, like exactly what the human mind, brain, body needs. You're giving them the data, and then things emerge because you're giving them the correct data. You're not like, if you give them the word hope, and hope is tied to our Lord, our God, the best person that ever fucking lived. We killed him. He came back to life. And that is why we have hope. You didn't even explain what hope meant to the child. You didn't even explain the definition of what hope means. And they're like, okay, hope, something to do with that. And their imagination, it just takes that data and it tries to, but then it's all wrapped up with guilt and fear and like someone else knew and was able to predict what the effect of giving your child that data would have. They just needed to get you to go along with the ritual so that you would give them the data that they knew the effect that it would have. Same thing with school. We know if we put your kids in chemistry for a year in high school, they're going to absorb a certain amount of this data in a certain way that when they grow up, they'll never question the pharmaceutical industry because they'll think they understand chemistry like enough where it's like, oh yeah, chemistry. Yeah. Okay. It's based on chemistry. Yeah. Okay. Sure. So you'll just accept that the chemist, the scientist, because you're like, oh, these guys are fucking smart. I remember that really smart kid who always understood the chemistry. You know, it's like all this, it seems like kind of random in a certain sense. Some of it seems structured, but the effect has already been measured of how you're going to respond to that and how you're going to live that out. So with TechnoTutor, what we've done with our kids is we've given them the actual data, the actual information and what it really means. And you start seeing like these abilities like seemingly come out of nowhere. But like, I mean, that's why we talk. That's why I'm constantly talking about it. Somebody said, oh, you're such a proud father. Pride is like in the context of what they're saying, like, oh, I'm just so proud. Like as if I'm just a parent like anybody else, their kid got an A on their test. They're so proud.
Okay.
Why would you be proud if your kid got a fucking A on a test?
Cameron is literally showing the world his kids are breaking through every single regular boundary or measurement that any child ever has had. And he's only over explaining it and over showing it to make it obvious to you that anybody can do this. It's not that he's coming from an emotional point of pride. It's because he's like, hey, look, I'm doing this. It's easy. You can do it too. If you're not doing this, you're limiting your child. Thus, you're abusing your child. Choose not to abuse your child by giving them the raw data so that they can have emergent capabilities as well.
And they can actually choose. Like if you want them to actually have real free choice when it comes to life, but also like your faith, all that stuff, give them the actual data. Don't just impulse them with fun and games and chocolates and all that stuff, because that's not giving them a choice. Of course, the child's going to accept the fucking Easter and the going to church and all that, because you're like, we're going to have an Easter egg hunt and chocolate. What if you took all that out and you didn't use any fear and you didn't use any guilt and you just explained to them the facts of reality? Would they freely choose to believe in God if you actually explain to them how poverty is created on earth? And from the beginning of time, God created us. He never taught us any actual anything. Think about it. He kicked us out of the garden. Why?
For eating from the tree.
Did he explain to us why we shouldn't?
Nope. He just said don't.
He just said don't.
But why shouldn't we?
Because you will become like me. Or I don't know what.
Why wouldn't I want to be like you?
Or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, something like whatever it was, like he was a negligent parent. That's like all the parents who don't explain what sex is to their children. And then their children grow up and then they learn it from movies and Instagram or TikTok. Or
then they become hyper focused on it.
And they're having sex early and they don't understand what condoms or I'm not saying they should be having sex, but they don't even know what preventative things they can do to not get pregnant. And then you have these young girls getting abortions at 15 years old because they didn't even know that they could get pregnant from having sex. They live because it's not obvious. It's like, but people are just doing it in porn. They're not getting pregnant.
They're like, it's common sense. They should just know. Like that's the backseat approach.
That's what I'm saying. Common sense is you should know that the world, that you're not going to heaven. That's fucking common sense. It's obvious. You should know that's not how reality works. I want to believe that's how it works. I want to believe it's just magic.
That you need to work on systems that will eliminate the abuse here. Because if there's abuse happening here, it doesn't matter what happens after you die. The abuse is still happening here. People are still dying here. It doesn't fucking matter where you go after you die if all this shit is still happening here.
You just don't want us to have magic. Okay. That's
you just want to take the Oh yeah. By the way, Christians, I'm not the first person to say this, but you can't argue that, oh, all these magic things and they die and resurrect and then you go to heaven and it's just not about logic. And then also have a fucking opinion about trans people aren't real and boys can't become girls, because gods can become humans and humans can be gods and they can die and they can come back to life and you can come back to life when you die. So where's the biology in that? And you'll be
Right.
boys are biologically boys, and that's science and that's facts. And I'm like, so let's apply the same kind of level of reasoning to your faith. Well, that's faith. Well, so is transgenderism. It's just the person really feels and believes that that's what they are. Just like you really feel and believe that you're saved, and you really feel and believe that God is going to save the world and you're going to live when you, it's the same. It's retarded. It's like you have been emotionally damaged as a person and you're seeking some comfort and some feeling. And that just makes you feel good because that's what the person impulsed you with. And they made it easy for you because they made you feel like you're bad if you don't. And you'll have pain and feel bad if you go against it. So it's like everything has been set up for you. Just so all you're doing is going from life, from experience to experience, guided by your feelings. And you're justifying it by saying, you know, we're talking about, Christine, the whole point about God bless America. They're literally just going through life based on their fucked up emotional guidance. And then be like, it's God. It's
Okay, but
God.
Cameron-
Like, it's my faith and my belief. It's just God. Like, that's all it is.
I know. Only
But
God
the
bless
thing is-
America.
The thing is, you don't have to be transgender or you don't have to be a Christian to be still participating in those same patterns and be just as responsible for the abuse. Because if you are living life through emotions directing you and whatever feels the best, that's the same thing. It's literally the same thing.
Well, but here's how it works then. You're going through based on feelings. What does marketing exploit?
Feelings.
Feelings and emotions, right? So all economic activity is based on the exploitation of feelings and emotions. Here's a perfect example. Why is it that Trump being indicted, okay, made the stock market in other like countries have dips and shit?
Because people felt a certain way about it, so they moved their money because of it.
You see what I mean? Like, why did the American stock, and I was talking to somebody I know who does like relatively high level trading, and they were like, oh yeah, it was crazy. Everything was doing this and that because of the indictment. And I'm like, but why? He goes, because people feel like, you know, if you're indicting your former presidents, like that's not a good sign. That's like a pretty unstable country. That's like Banana Republic, third world type shit. So it's feelings. And I'm like, okay, but like because that implies things are going to become unstable economically in that country. Yeah, but isn't
Having
the
a sitting
economic
president that's-
stability the market itself that you're taking your money out of and you're creating it? So what if just no one did that? And he's like, he couldn't process what I was saying. Like, what if just no one reacted to that information and just kept as usual? He's like,
Right.
no, but it's a sign that things are going to be unstable. But it was the response to this information that created actual instability in the market, like created the movement. Like, what if you just did?
Right.
So you participating in all this shit and like Easter feels so good and like the guilt of penitence and all this shit, all of those bullshit things. It's the same reason you buy Nikes. It's the same reason why is Nike suddenly having Dylan Mulvaney in sports bras? Because people are all emotional about Dylan Mulvaney and trans and being a hero and all this shit. And they know it'll get some people to buy. That's all. It's not, so you participating in that is the problem. You doing Easter every weekend makes no fucking difference. It doesn't make a difference well, it does in the sense of it's making the difference of whether the system continues or not. Because if you didn't participate, just as an example, obviously, if you just only didn't participate in Easter, it wouldn't make a difference. But it's just showing like, okay, I'm going to just through my life, just go based on my feelings. But then I'm going to have this one holiday where I think this is where I'm in control of reality. This is where I'm making sure my afterlife, my soul, my security long-term is secured by doing that, but not any of the other stuff I'm doing throughout my life that I'm just constantly participating. How many fucking companies do you think make all their money just from the fact that people are doing Easter? Like Peeps, you know, those little shitty marshmallow chicken things.
Yeah.
Who the fuck eats those buys them at any other time than Easter?
Never.
Some company makes a fucking profit big time It goes in the, what is it, the black or whatever they say?
Yeah.
Or is it the red? One of those, right?
From the red to the black.
Right. Like, yeah, the black. They
Literally just
make
putting
that just from Easter from selling the Peeps. You know what I mean? I'm just surprised.
no nutritional value. All emotion.
There's no nutritional value in Easter.
Right. It's actually pretty fascinating, like the what you were saying about the markets, because when you study like Forex and all that kind of stuff, it's like, oh, this is very, like the way they kind of sell it to you is like, this is really cool because it's just based on human activity, and you get to watch the charts and all the news articles that come out that'll influence the markets for that day. So it just like goes to show, like, if anyone is participating in that, you know, and is walking this process, it's like you're just continuing the current system as it is, because that is totally based on what we just said about like feelings and emotions. It's like, oh, this company is doing this big thing, so then it's going to, you know what I mean? And then the stock's going to go this way, or it's going to go that way, or they just laid off a bunch of people, like all this kind of stuff. It's just like, yeah, if you're...
Why get upset about that stuff? Why get upset if
Right.
Dylan Mulvaney is on Bud Light? If it doesn't matter what happens on Earth. If you're saved because of Easter, then why does it matter? Why do you feel that spark of anger and frustration about that shows you, that should show you the dishonesty. If you actually had real faith, you would literally not give a fuck what happens on Earth.
100%.
You would not care, because you're like, but if you're like, no, it does somewhat matter, then we're taking that to the logical conclusion of, right, it does matter. And let's actually pull on those threads and see like, oh, education at a fundamental level, if everyone was equally effectively educated, none of these problems would happen. The things that you just excuse and you call the sin, that you call just human frailty, sinfulness, whatever, all of that shit is the compounding of lack of equal education. That's all it is. And that could be changed, but not if you're distracting yourself also while going, yeah, but I'm saved, so there's no point. But I'm still going to be outraged because I actually do want to just get those like negative feelings and like judge and do all this stuff and feel angry and talk about we're a godless nation and all this shit. And it's like, why does it matter? If you are the only one in reality that is saved, why do you care? Well, I care about other people and I care about them being saved, but you don't care if children actually fucking have enough to eat. You don't care
My
about that.
children had enough to eat, Cameron.
But you know what it comes to? No, there's not one single person who believes in God who is free 100% from doubt. Every single person who believes in God still has doubt. That's why they believe it. And they'll argue and they'll say, oh, actually, I know. It's like, no, you don't. You actually have hope. That's why you call it hope. You have faith. That's why you call it faith. You don't actually know. Like, I know 1 + 1 is 2. I know if everyone had an equal effective education, we would have heaven on earth within a matter of time. 100%. It's not possible because we have the example of everyone not having equal education. And it started with, think about it, if you're Christian, it started with God. Because God was God. God could have created human beings with also adequate knowledge to make the choice. Instead, it's like, well, now you got to experience the result of not accepting God. Isn't that a form of education? Why not just give that education up front? Could people still have fucked up and made mistakes? Sure, but at least they would have had the information of, oh, now that I go against the actual information, I see the result of that. Well, no, they should have just trusted God. Trust him to do what? Because what was going to happen the next time he's like, well, you need to do X, Y, or Z. They would just be like, oh, we'll just trust you. Is that the point? You just wanted people, think about it. They didn't want people to actually make choices in the Garden of Eden. They just wanted them to trust God. How is that a choice? Just do whatever I say. Whatever I say, do it. Why? You don't have a choice. If you choose not to, then everything's fucked.
It's funny because everybody has
just constantly choose. Like, it's like, okay, let me ask you a question. Why don't you guys eat poison?
It's not good for you.
I don't want to die.
That. So you choose not to do it.
I prefer the taste of other things.
But if I just put some white powder in front of you, knowing that you like sugar and that you didn't know anything about poison, and I was just like, here you go, and you ate some of it and you got sick and almost died, I'd be like, hey, you idiot. Like, why'd you choose that? Like, what do you mean? Well, I thought it was sugar. Like, you chose it. You chose it. Like, what? No, I thought it was sugar. Like, I didn't fucking know. If I had told you up front, hey, this is poison. It will kill you. And you fully understood the consequence and the ramifications of that. Why would you choose it? Because now that you do understand it, you don't choose it. But parents do not know how to educate their children. So they want to act like all the things everyone does is choices, and it's not based on actual education at all. Though you stick your kid in school for 8 hours a day, or you brainwash them in church because you're actually trying to educate them. So you're trying to do a little bit, but not do it, but then blame, but not blame, but not take responsibility, but say you are taking responsibility. It's just fucked. Instead of literally taking responsibility for giving your child the understanding of every word that exists so they can have the emergent ability of just fucking understanding reality.
It's funny because people have separated everything. They have separated, they're like, oh, but my faith doesn't affect my other choices. How, like, where I put my kids in school or where I work.
Apparently it does, because if you put your kid in
of,
certain Christian schools, they still get killed.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like people,
If those
like
parents hadn't been Christian, their kids would still be alive.
It's like people who are, for example, Forex and all that kind of like trading and whatnot. It's like, you can choose to believe whatever you want. Just make your money with Forex. You can be spiritual, you can be Christian, you can be whatever, but make your money with Forex. But yet Forex is perpetuating the abuse. Trading in general, it's like you're literally utilizing the emotional instability of the entire planet to your monetary advantage. How is that aligned with what you believe? You're directly abusing. And then it goes beyond that. It's like, it's all of the different things that you participate in on a day-to-day basis. It's like, how have you separated that? How can you choose to participate in all those things and then say you believe in this? It's like, there's so much cognitive dissonance and disconnectedness. It's like, it's just that one point. As long as that one point is there, then nothing else that I do really matters. And it's like, people will literally take time. Like, I don't know for sure which religion this is, but it's like where they have different times in the day where they pray.
Islam.
Yes. Thank you.
But you got to face the right direction.
Okay.
It's like a satellite dish. God can't get your.
I've met people who do that. Yeah. And they literally.
Hold on, guys.
Yeah. They literally stop everything. They go, they do that. They come back, and then they still continue to participate in abuse. And then
what
they're
do you
like,
think's going on,
it's
though?
fine because I take the time.
What do you think is happening, though? Like, if like someone's late, is God like,
your prayers do not matter. You were 15 seconds late.
What's the consequence?
You're going to hell. I don't know.
But what if they never prayed for their whole life, and then right before they died, they like took it real seriously for like 20 minutes? Would it count? Like, what's the like amount of time you have to take it seriously before it doesn't count?
Yeah, there's no logic there.
Well, and if you submit to a law, everything will work out, I guess, right? But yet also maybe the US will come and fucking invade your country and like kill your people and shit and like topple your government. And
yeah, well, I was just reading about Islam a little bit while we were chatting here, and it says like, no, like their belief in God, it doesn't really matter if you believe in it, because he only knows if you'll go to heaven or hell after you die, because like he knows your true self and your true intentions. So it's like, you could be doing all this stuff, but if God says you have malintent, you will not go to heaven. So it's like, it doesn't even matter, which basically would be the same thing in all religions, like Christianity, Catholicism. Like, you don't actually know whether you're going to go to heaven or hell, because you don't even know who your true self is. And that's where the faith.
So then why does Earth exist at all?
Anu needed gold.
Yeah, but I mean, like Allah, like what? So it doesn't matter, but he put you here as a test, even though it didn't matter the test, because he's just going to look at your intention anyways. So what does it matter?
All of you failed.
But if if you actually had intentions that were to support all life, all of creation that he made, then you would be doing something about the abuse happening in the world.
Yeah, but only he can know your intentions. You can't even know your intentions. They can't be evident. If they're evident, probably not. I mean, that could could be real. You know, like sometimes we'll listen to Owen Benjamin and he's kind of like tiptoeing along the fence of like, oh, actually maybe Christianity is fucked too. And, you know, he's sort of like doing like this kind of slow path of questioning these things. And he was, it's like, I see a lot of people stuck on this point of like, well, it actually makes sense that we were created by a God. I'm like, yes, it does make sense. But the part that doesn't make sense is that this God is benevolent.
Right.
And that this God is anything better than any of us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's just another person that fucking created something. Just like the reality we're in, the microcosm of that is a country. The microcosm of that is a family. The microcosm of that, you know, it's like you internally in your experience. Like if you had the vocabulary and the ability to influence trillions of people in all of reality, couldn't you just create, like, instead of creating a family or a company or a country, you could create like a whole reality?
Yeah.
But look at the starting point of all of it. Why would there be like this break? All of reality below this point is fucked. Everything above this point is totally bliss perfect.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it just be all the same, like a fractal everywhere? And so we're distracting ourselves by this idea of God. And people say like we're attacking God, like that means we're bad. And we're literally challenging all the bad shit that exists that you excuse by saying, well, God doesn't have any control over that. Or he does, but he chooses not to. Like God is a slave to your choice.
Yeah.
What's John saying? I'm reading the chat. Well, their prophet did the math and found out that if you pray this many times a day, you'll reach the 1 billion prayers. Oh, Jesus, does he really expect that many prayers?
I said, is this facts? And then John said, no, it's not, but the facts don't matter.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. At least someone did the math, you know, and nobody else has to do it. So we don't.
It is interesting seeing people like go into Islam and being like, oh, this is why it's so suppressed. It's like the fucking real deal. It's like you still believe in God. You still don't realize, you know, and the thing is, when we say like we are gods, people think that means, oh, so like I can fly around and I can shoot magic bolts and I can, you know, it's like, no, but you can have an influence in reality. You're in a specific form and you could choose not to be limited by your programming and go beyond that and change yourself. That's what God would do if it was in a limited form. Like that's the part where you are God. That doesn't mean you are like the most powerful thing, like you can control everybody, like whatever this idea people have.
Yeah.
Because their idea of God, you know, it's like when you listen to popular music and it's like the idea of relationships in popular music and sex, it's so like juvenile and immature. That's people's conception of God. It's very juvenile and immature. No one ever really sat down with their kids, like we do, but explain to them what God actually means. You know, like what does that actually mean to actually be God? And how can the thing people say is God actually be God? You know, it can't be. It's not taking full responsibility. To be God is to take responsibility. God did not take responsibility for educating humans effectively. So it makes way more sense that the actual God that created our reality is a God that's equal to us, that's just another being in a different form, that was like, I'm just going to fucking create something because I'm afraid of dying. I'm afraid, I have fear of loss, and I'm going to try to create stuff to control everything, to try to somehow prevent myself from facing that point, which would make sense why everyone believes that God makes it so that you go to heaven when you die, because you're afraid of dying.
Right.
If you weren't afraid of dying, you wouldn't give a fuck about heaven.
Yeah.
And you would just be like, let's just make heaven. Let's just, you know, it's like, you ever meet those people where it's like, they just kind of do cool shit and they just do what they want. You know, and I don't mean like they play video games all day, because no one actually wants to do that. But I mean, like they just make cool shit and they do stuff and they don't care.
Yeah.
Like we would be like that. Like if you actually knew who you were, you wouldn't be afraid. You wouldn't be afraid of speaking up. You wouldn't be afraid of creating stuff. You wouldn't be afraid of changing the system. You would just be like, oh, just do it. Well,
Yeah.
but what if, but if I do that, I might die. And well, then I won't. Well, think about it. People who believe in God are the most afraid of dying.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, you know, if you look at Jesus's words to this guy who runs up runs up and says, okay, imagine you study Jesus and you're like, man, this guy's got, like, he did a lot. He has an understanding of reality in this world. You run up to him and you're like, Jesus, okay, you're my teacher. I will listen to whatever you say. Like, what is it that I need to do so I can, you know, live a good life like you? I want to be like you, man. I want to be like you. And Jesus is like, okay, everything that you think is important in this world, it's actually bullshit. Like everything that you live for, which is really just consumerism, drop that and do what I'm saying, which is create a system that is best for everyone. Like actually take care of your neighbors. And you're like, but then I wouldn't have all the money that I have. And like, wait, no, wait, no. But the system, I'm really good in this system is what I'm trying to say. And I just
How do I
want to know,
keep and maintain that?
how do I
Jesus? Can you
keep
explain
this
to me?
instead?
But then also do what you're saying.
But I
I'll
also
do
like
anything you
the
say.
things that you say. Yeah, everything
Yeah,
that you
I'll
said
do
sounds
anything.
really nice. Right? That's essentially what, like, that is a literal story from the Bible, right? And that's literally what we're living. It's just like people are like, yeah, no, all these things sound really great, but okay, I'm fucking afraid of not having everything that I have. So
It's like, okay, well, in that case, just throw me a birthday party every year. You know, think about how I died and how you fucking didn't really appreciate my sacrifice. And so you're really guilty. And pretty much everything you do in the system that you're continuing to do, just feel guilty about it. And then just realize at the end of the year, that cycle, you know, like you're basically forgiven for all of that. I know you're going to do it again, but don't worry, it doesn't matter. You're going to go to heaven when you die. Okay. But you're still going to be
Jesus.
terrified your whole life of dying. You know, so it's not really going to actually offer. And also, people are going to try to turn their kids trans, and just go with it. Because look, I remember back when God killed all the gay people with rainbows, or no, he killed people with the flood, and then he showed them a rainbow and said, "This is my promise that won't happen again." This time, he's going to use the rainbow to make your kids gay.
Deal.
Every time you see a rainbow, remember, God won't do this again. In other words, he won't stop it.
Ooh. Oh,
That's what it means.
oh shit. Yeah, because why was the flood in the first place? Is because of all
People
the
are so wicked,
degeneracy.
all the gays
Yeah.
and trans. But now God promised I won't do it again. Don't worry.
I
So
won't do it
Christians, just realize, don't worry about the trans thing. Don't worry about white, all the racism stuff and white people getting shit on and all that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about dudes hanging dong in your girl's locker room. It doesn't matter because they're going to go to heaven.
And God's not going to do anything about it. So,
And let me
enjoy.
ask you a question. Do you think God's going to have male, female locker rooms in heaven?
You think there's gender in heaven? Yeah. No, that. Okay, so, I mean, if you're listening to this, if you have any fear of death, fear of just like survival, you're still participating in the system. That's what the system feeds off of. That's the starting point of the system in general, right? Come to life. And don't get me wrong, this is a process. We're all walking it, right? But the process is to create a system that is best for all. Then there's no need to participate in the fear system. There's no need, like the focus on survival creates the conditions in which you need to survive. That's it. So stop focusing on survival, focus on life, focus on giving life to everyone equally.
You have to
And-
transcend survival. It's not like we're saying just start starving.
Or just ignore it.
And it's not that you're not going to participate in the system. Like it's the only system that exists, but that's why we need a new system. That's the point. So it's not like go into fear and like quit your job and just suddenly like go become a beggar on the street and all this stuff. You could build your way out of that. But if your measurement of that isn't moving towards changing the system, all you're going to do is just participate in the system and perpetuate it, and it will never change. Because you'll just brainwash your kids with Easter, you'll brainwash them with Disney, and then they'll grow up and they'll be in the same position you're in. And our kids have all the magic and fun of childhood without getting brainwashed by the bullshit. And yes, there are still some influences in the world that get through to them, but that's why our focus is on building their vocabulary. So they'll be able to process that at this age or as they get older too, they'll be able to process all that stuff. So you don't need to go into fear of like, oh, I got to protect my kids and keep them in like a box so they can never see anything. Like, no, you just build their vocabulary, explain things, use TechnoTutor with them. It's very basic things. And then put yourself in a position where you can share this with other people. It's like literally taking what Jesus said and making it a reality. He said, become like children again. What does that mean? Open up your natural learning ability, open up your ability to change, open up your innocence again. Like there's nothing innocent about Easter. If you really think about it, like you're just manipulating your kids with chocolate and Easter egg hunts to brainwash them with human sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's fucking evil. It's disgusting.
And this other point of like, because I saw this thing, I think it was Jordan Peterson was talking about it, like, what is humility, right? And it's not like this, like, oh, you know, I'm such a bad person or whatever, but rather it's like, instead of being so stuck on what you think is right, and you don't have any understanding of it really. Humility is like having the capability of being like, oh, I can learn something more, and learning as much as you possibly can about that thing.
I mean, the only point he's missing is self-honesty.
Yeah.
Because you have to be honest with yourself. Like, is this a belief? Have I actually worked it out and looked at it? So humility isn't just, oh, there's somebody else, just believe what they're saying.
Right.
It's using self-honesty.
Yeah.
Hey, babe.
Look at that cute baby. So handsome. Hey.
Pretty
What do you
cool.
want to say on the podcast, buddy?
I think he just said it.
I'm pretty sure that was it.
So take what Aristotle is saying, okay, apply that. What else? See?
Aristotle the Wise.
He's been doing TechnoTutor, and so now every time he sees a computer, he's like, I type. He's like trying to do the thing.
How old is he now?
He's almost 7 months.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
He's cute.
I
All right.
think
Any final?
He's giving Caius a run for his money as far as size goes.
I'm sure he's larger than Caius. I'm sure he is.
He's like 30 pounds.
Jeez.
It's wild. Like
Yeah.
I'm buying clothes for him and it's like 18 to 24 month clothing.
Yes.
He's gonna be
Uh,
dressed to the nines at the event.
Oh yeah, we were looking at all his clothes we're gonna get him for the event.
Are you getting like a little baby tuxedo?
Oh,
Something
for
like
sure.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like he's waiting to say, okay.
He's like at the phase where he'll grab your hair at all costs.
That's why I always wear a hat, if you noticed.
ISB grabbing your hair.
Yeah.
Gotta preserve the few hairs you have left.
Yes.
He's so close to to crawling though. He goes up on all fours and just rocks.
Sorry.
Kind of like a humping motion. You can envision that.
It's pretty accurate.
That is normal, by the way, Mitch, just so you know.
Yeah, I
I just want to
figured.
make sure you're aware. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't understand why he's doing it. I'm like, no, that's just not right.
Yeah.
He got that from me, actually. Sure.
He's watching. Love it.
Just don't act like you don't know.
You were there too. You
Anyways.
guys want to wrap it up?
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up for today?
Don't poison your kid. And
Bring your kids to the event in San
take real
Diego.
Responsibility.
Show them what's
Yeah.
possible.
Oh,
Don't take them to the
oh,
Dalai
oh.
Lama.
Oh,
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Speaking of child abuse, did you
real.
guys-
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I was telling Drake this morning, some little kid was with the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama was like sticking out his tongue and telling the little kid to suck his tongue, and like was giving him
What?
weird kisses and stuff. Yeah. So the moral
He's
of the
like,
story is,
You must be the reincarnation of shlabadibidabadabadabada. Yes, you are definitely.
don't
You must
switch
come
to
to the palace with
Buddhism.
me.
They're all
Okay,
perverted.
but
They're
you
all
know,
fucking
you know
perverts,
what,
man.
you know what Jesus would do?
Not suck
Come
on a
to the
kid's thumb.
event.
He would tell other people to come to the event with him. That's what he would do. Not only come to the event, he would be sharing with other people to come to the event with him.
I agree.
That's what he did his whole life. So why don't you go do that?
Yeah.
Go find a couple friends to bring with you to the event. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful venue. I mean, there's literally going to be so much food provided for you, and it's going to be such good food. It's going to be amazing. We're going to go into the ocean together. There's going to be hundreds of people there. We're going to have live performances. We're all going to be dressed to the nines. I mean, come on. Don't you want other people to experience that with you? It's going to be so much better if you have people you invited, you personally invited. Imagine you there not having invited anyone. You having this feeling of guilt in the back of your mind, the whole event, knowing that there's other people that could have been here with you, enjoying it with you. Then picture yourself at the event with at least one other person that you invited, knowing that you were the reason they got to have that experience, knowing that they had fun, they got to meet all these people and expand because you invited them. That's such an amazing experience for you. Your time at the event is going to be so much better because you invited other people and they're there with you. So one person, yeah, you'll feel pretty good. Two people, you'll be like, heck yeah. Have 10 people and you're like, it's a party because of me. Let's fucking go. It's going to be amazing. So I'm telling you, your experience at the event is going to be so much better if you invite people. So let's do the thing. Let's literally sell out the entire venue. Make the venue tell us, literally, we have no more capacity to possibly fit anybody else.
I agree. Let's make them well, yes, let's do that.
That's AI.
I have nothing to add. Like, Jess is like a really good salesperson. I'm just like, just do it, please. Just do it. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's funny because I keep talking every time I talk to somebody. I'm like, so I guess we'll see you at the event. And I'm like, it's literally like 2 months from now. I'm like, I'm probably going to talk to this person tomorrow. And I'm like, so I'll see you at the event, right? And like, it's like 2 months.
It's like, okay, so yesterday at the meetup, we had a few people coming through that are semi-regulars at the meetup. And I usually am the one that meets them when they first get there and then walks them down, because you got to go down some stairs or down an elevator to get to the meeting room. And I'm usually walking them down, chit-chatting, you know, and then during the session, me and Aristotle are just walking around doing our own thing. And then afterwards we go talk with everyone again. And one of the people was coming through and he actually has techno tutor too. And I was like, oh, so you're going to the event in June, right? And it just so matter of fact, like assuming this person has his ticket. I was like, I haven't checked the tickets recently. We're going to the event, right? You know, because I'm like, obviously, right? And he's like, oh yeah, actually, I haven't bought my ticket yet, but I'm totally going. Like I'm getting all the money.
Says that,
like,
I go, okay, so you're not going, but you want to go. Got it.
Right. And so it was like, it was cool because with that certainty that you bring through of like, there's no, like you saying it in a way where there's literally no excuse not to go to the event. Like it's obvious that you should be going to the event. It's obvious, like, oh, you must have already got your ticket. Like people will literally start figuring out, how can I get there? Like if it's so obvious that I should be there, I obviously need to be there.
It's so obvious. Just like, are you going to celebrate Easter? Well, yeah, obviously. Like, are you going to the event? Obviously. Like, okay, so let's skip the Easter part, or you could do it. I don't care, whatever you want to do. Go to the event.
People need to start realizing that that's with every single event that this group puts on. It is a non-negotiable. You will figure it out, because guess what? There's nothing like the events that we put on. These events are so amazing. We put everything into it. You get everything out of it. All the people there are there to maximize how much, like how great of an experience you have to learn, meet new people, grow and expand, take more responsibility, see parts of yourself that you couldn't see on your own. Like there's so much value to be had at these events that it shouldn't be even Like you should make the decision now that I will never miss a self-perfected event. That every single event that self-perfected puts on, I will be at and I will buy a ticket for right away to show that I am 100% a part of this community and see the value of this community. If you've seen any value in this community, you should be able to make that decision. It's not I'd have to look at the logistics. Oh, I have to see if I have the money. It's like, no, I'm going to figure it out. And I know every single event that this group puts on, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to buy a ticket right away every single time, showing that commitment. Like that's the level of certainty that you need to get to. And if you're not there yet, like reach out for support. Like, what are you missing? Where are you not clear? And what are you not doing? Like, are you on the trainings? Are you on the Friday night calls? Are you listening to this podcast? Because if you're not, like, if you don't have the certainty, you're obviously not totally plugged in. All you have to do to develop the certainty is just totally plug in and say no backdoors. Boom. Every single event, you're going to have the most life-changing experience, and it's going to be amazing. And you're going to invite tons of people to be there with you to make it even better.
Well said. Shall we leave it at that for today?
All right.
Yeah.
See you guys.
So how do they get their tickets? Wait.
How do they
If
get their
there's-
tickets? You can go to the pinned posts in Self-Perfected. You can personally message Mitchell. You can personally message me. You can personally message anybody on this podcast. You
Not
can
me. Do not talk to me.
don't personally message Cameron. And yeah, honestly, like if you are using that as an excuse not to go, then I probably don't want you there. Like it's so easy to find how to get a ticket. Like just literally message us, go to the tabs in the group, figure it out. You need to be there. Get there. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll see you on the Self-Perfected Hangout.
Yes.
We'll see you in the, well, actually, I won't necessarily see all of you in the parenting calls, but we also have parenting calls if you have Technotutor. What else am I missing? Anything else?
Wednesdays we do trainings.
Oh, those are kind of new. Those are
in the
good.
Self-Perfected group. They're really good.
You have to be in the
Great
group. So
fire.
if you're watching this, you're not in the Self-Perfected group, you need to go search Self-Perfected on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Join the group to join the
First of all.
trainings.
Yeah.
And on Friday night, we have our group calls that are straight fire. And also there are probably over 25 cities around the world that has in-person meetups every other or every week. So plug into those if you need to be connected to know what cities those are in. Just let us know and we'll get you connected. And yeah, tons of more resources coming. Also, like a bunch of the cities are now coming out with their own book clubs too. And just like all this stuff, like we're constantly adding value. Like it's amazing. So just plug in.
Nice. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.